Good morning. Happy Tuesday to everybody in the house under the sound of my voice. Gotta look it up. August the 29th. You think I do this every day? You think I would know the dates? I don't. That's just how my life operates. I don't know the dates. I know the days, but I do know what time it is. And it is time for the old-fashioned sports show. I am your host, your main man for the next 3 hours. 3 uninterrupted hours, no Sarkeesian press conference for me to jet off to, nothing to that effect. So I'll be here for 3 straight hours, mostly me. Jason Suchomel will join me, though, at some point, and we're going to talk recruiting, get some recruiting updates from him. He'll be there. Rodolfo asked an interesting question. He said he wanted to know if anybody has actually ever met me at a game. I saw that in there, Rodolfo. So you know, Orangebloods, we used to have a tailgate. And I used to be there before every game, sweating it out in the suit, like sweating it out. And it'd be hilarious because remember like that LSU games Del Conte and I were talking about, and people saw me in the suit and they're like, man, are you hot? I'm like, no, I'm cold. Like, of course I'm hot. Like, I'm sweating. Do you not see me sweating through the suit? So usually what happens is I go from Brazos and I cut across, where the students live, the student area, whatever. And I kind of come up the back way to get onto Bevo Boulevard. And then the press box is in there. So if you can catch me in there, and people catch me, but at that point, I'm not walking up Bevo Boulevard. I'm not walking up the hill just to say what's up. Like we're not doing any of that. So you can catch me if you can, but nonetheless, easier said than done. Especially on Saturday. I'll be honest with you, you're not going to catch me. Like I'm beelining it from the parking garage to the press box because I know it's going to be hot as hell out there. All right, and you guys can hang out there if you want to. More power to you. And I love it when you guys try to offer me drinks. I'm like, man, I can't do none of that. But nonetheless, Rodolfo, I'm around. I exist. I am not a figment of anyone's imaginations. There's enough photos out there to prove it. Welcome back, man. Welcome back to another game week, day 2, I guess, of getting ready for game week. Rice is right around the corner, as we know. Alabama's around the corner. I got so many topics that I'm going to get to you over the next 3 hours. 3 hours of stuff. I am going to talk a little bit about the embrace the hate because I got a different spin on that than other people do. But I got a couple of different angles that I do want to get into. I will have it. Maybe I should have a trumpet that plays little taps to the depth charts. We used to have them. Like they're gone. So I'm gonna have an ode to the depth charts that I feel like that thing is absolutely dying, a slow death as far as college football is concerned. We will have buy or sell in the first hour. I'll have my social media standouts as well. So I've got a tons for you. Good morning to everybody. I want to try to get the first few people in to make sure I acknowledge everyone. So let me run down this list really quick. All right. Just another channel. Rodolfo Blake is in here. EJ, whoa, you got a lot going on, Mr. 806, but good morning to you. Top 5, Zachary, of course, is in there. Rodolfo's in here. Kyle's in here. Jesse's in there. JD. I know SEC, my man SEC is in there. Just a dude who I appreciate it. All right, just a dude. We'll get your predictions in as well. Don't leave anywhere. At the 9 o'clock hour, I'm going to go back to predictions since we didn't get a chance to finish that because we got cut into Overreaction Monday. Get it in. Screenshot it right now, just to do so we have it. Of course, Money B is in the house. Mike Harges is in the house. Not Mike Harge, though. I think there's 2 different ones that are out here. There's 2 different ones. Have we ever seen Mike Harge and Mike Harges in the same room? That's what you need to be asking, Rodolfo, because I don't think we've seen that. I'm not quite sure we've seen Mike Harges and Mike Harge in the same room. That's the question. But nonetheless, Audrey's in there, Brent's in there, Mike Welch is in there, and the adjudicator, of course, is in the house as well. So thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, ladies, for showing up as well. The ladies are always watching in, but they don't want you guys sliding into their DMs, so they don't really say much. They just kind of go in the cut because they know how you guys are. They're smarter than that. Like they like. I don't blame them. But Money B, Sark After Dark, what's going on to you guys as well? Appreciate you guys filling up the Specs chat line. The first part of this show is always brought to you by my main man, Eric Sells Homes, DFW. Listen, it's real simple. If you're looking for a home in the DFW area, you do not have to look any further than my main man, Eric Sells Homes, DFW. How many times I got to tell you this? Look, you look at a buy a house, looking to sell a he's a person he's got the master plan for you. He will absolutely help you out. Fair guy, honest guy. He will not steer you in the wrong direction. He's a Longhorn fan as well, 12-0. And so he's the person that you need to go to. You hook him up. Eric Sells Homes, DFW, El Presidente, Mr. 12-0 himself. He was repping 12-0 back in the summer, maybe even before that. So he was always standing on that 12-0 table. So far it hasn't broken on him. And I hope that table stands up for him, boy. That's all I got to say. Eric, I hope that table stands up for you. So what's up to Joe Mama? That's an interesting one. And by the way, I know you guys, I'm just gonna say this real quick, and I'm getting to what start getting into my topics real quick. I see what you guys are doing when the recruiting writers comes on. You guys are going in the chat, and you guys are making up names in the attempts to get us to say these names. Because I don't follow recruiting that well. Alex Dunlap doesn't follow recruiting that well. What's up, Wilson? So you guys are trying us, and you guys are putting in fake names and getting us to try to do it. Jason caught me last week when you guys put in a fake name. And then, but Alex was the same day Alex caught it. It just happened to Alex. So I'm just letting you know, I'm on alert. Before Aaron puts anything on the screen when Jason comes on, I am going to Google search this thing. If this person doesn't have a rivals page, you will not get me this time. I promise you, you will not get me this time. You guys are dirty. You do your dirty, like little bad little kids. Can't take you nowhere. Sit down in the corner some damn where. I'm so tired of you. You guys get ready to get this party started. By the way, oh my gosh, we got a lot of. This is a fun week. Get ready for Friday. I got a fun segment planned for you guys. Just don't go anywhere this week. I'm telling you. Don't go anywhere today, obviously, because we got a bunch of good shows that are coming on today, this weekend. Of course, we're going to have the post-game show that Ketch and I have been doing for about 10 years at this point. And that's always a fun watch. You guys are absolutely going to love that. So there's just a lot of things going on. It'll take me too long to go through all of it. I'll do it at another time because I'm really excited to kind of get into this topic and get this party started. So you guys are ready. Let's go ahead and do the damn thing. And in advance, thanks to Aaron, who's producing the show behind the scenes. In advance, thanks to him, just in case I get too far into the weeds and I don't come up for air and I forget to say it. So let me just say it while I remember it. All right. Let's talk about football. This is where we are. And as I thought about it this morning on my morning walk in the dark, right? It's kind of scary sometimes, I'm not going to lie. But every football season, the great part about football season is that every football season, to me, is this whole new rebirth, right? It's that new hope. It's that regeneration. It's that thing where everybody is 0-0 and everybody is talking about the upcoming season and what they're looking forward to potentially accomplishing the upcoming season. And the best part about this season, when you haven't played a game, is that you haven't played a game. Because look, as excited as you guys are here at Texas and haven't played a game yet, as excited as Alabama may be or Ohio State may be or something to that effect, guess what? Kansas is excited. West Virginia is excited. UCF is excited. There's a lot of teams that are excited. Everyone's excited. Before the high school season kicked off last week, all the kids were excited, right? And if there are NFL fan bases who are trying to get themselves excited about the upcoming season and what's going to happen. The great part about this, and again, it's like a rebirth, this whole new promise, this whole renewed expectations. And there's another part that comes with this whole new thing. And it happens more in college football and high school football than anything else. It's the slogans, right? It is slogan time. All right, you guys remember when you were in high school and you remember that your team would win like a state championship in the sport, and what inevitably happened the next year? What was the slogan? Your school name, back to state, right? And everybody on the team, basketball team, football team, whatever it was, that was always the slogan, like back to state, right? That was always the thing, right? And so in college football, there is always that thing as far as slogans. And so there's always these new things. So I thought about it, right? You guys remember several years ago, and I can only go back to the time that I'm here. So when I start with Charlie Strong and I work my way up, you guys got to remember, like, I don't have the Mac Brown era in my memory or my mental Rolodex. But you guys remember when Charlie was here? You guys remember the infamous slogan from that season, one of his first seasons. I think it ended up being number one. Remember what that was? We're going to put the T back in Texas. You guys remember that? Oh, I know you remember it because there's a third world country out there that's got some T back in Texas shirts. These kids are wearing them right now with their Buffalo Bills Super Bowl champion shirts. There's some T back in Texas shirts that are being worn right now. And you guys were 100% into T back in Texas. That's what Charlie Strong's going to do. He's going to put the T back in Texas. Didn't really happen, right? Oh, Chris Bennett is so true. There was another one. Chris Bennett, you're so onto it. Let's ride. That was another one, right? Chris, you're so on it. Let's ride. That was another one. That was another T-shirt one, right? That was another one, like the T-shirt thing that was there. What was the one? There was another one too. Who was that? There was that reporter who trademarked it. He used to work for one of these other websites, and he trademarked some slogan and something like that. I don't think it was Let's Ride. I feel like it was something else. Chris Bennett would know, and I can't remember who the reporter's name was, but nonetheless, he trademarked the slogan because he thought that thing was going to blow up. It did not, right? So there was that. Someone out there is going to remember. I don't have time to go through our Rolodex. And you remember when Tom was here? You remember what Tom's slogan was? 1-0. Oh, boy, did we kill it when it came to the 1-0s. Hey, what are you guys doing today? Man, just going 1-0. Hey, man, how's practice been? Coach, how's everything's going? Man, we're just trying to go 1. What do you think about the upcoming season? We're just trying to go 1-0. And then 1-0 became the thing that everybody talked about, like it was 1-0. It was a 1-0 thing, right? It was that kind of thing, right? So that happened all the time. And now 2023 has rolled around, and we've got a new one, a new slogan that everybody's talking about. You already know. Embrace the hate. That's it. We should have embraced the heat. That's what it really should be, because it's hot as hell out here. But we got to embrace the hate, right? That's exactly where we are right now. It was Jason Higdon. He trademarked, copyrighted something. It was a Charlie Strong thing. I just don't remember which one it was. But then nonetheless, we're all into embrace the hate. That's exactly where we are right now. That's exactly what everyone's talking about. That has been the talking point. So it kind of how this thing comes about is it gets mentioned, this whole embrace the hate thing, kind of in the off season, but it's kind of like a one-off. People hear it, kind of shoulder shrug it. It just kind of is what it is, right? It doesn't really become a big thing. And then what happened is that Chris Del Conte comes on my show just about a week ago, and he starts talking about the embrace the hate mantra, right? And from that point on, the thing took off, especially because your mark was like the next day or so. So, but really from that point, that's when it became a national story. Like that's where everyone, like I said, it existed before, became a national story when Chris Delcani gets on the show, and then he starts talking about it, right? Um, and so when we start talking about, and it really kind of came about when I was asking him about his expectations for the program, and more specifically, Steve Sarkisian going into year three. Like, what's the definition of success, or all these other kind of things, right? And so, Chris Delcani, he starts talking about it. He starts talking. I'm looking through the quote here, and he starts talking about how things got started. Talking about the COVID and the civil unrest that was happening, and how they're running, a tight end out of linebacker, receivers at safety, mixing people up, so on and so forth, right? And then, he starts talking about last year's team and their average age. Like, he starts breaking that thing down there. And again, he's telling me that there's no excuses, but he feels like now they got guys on the offensive line. Now they've got guys on the defensive line. They've got some receivers, so on and so forth. And then he goes into the thing that ends up being the thing that basically ends up making this embrace the hate into a viral statement, right? And it goes, my expectations with Steve, like across the board, and with everyone in sports, we know we have to embrace the hate this year. Because everyone in the Big 12 is mad at us. They think we broke up the Big 12, that we broke up the Pac 12 because we left. We left for what's right for the University of Texas. And this is my job. That's my job. He goes, that's our job as a leadership, is to protect the brand from ourselves and be in the best position to be successful. So he goes, no, we have t-shirts. We gave our staff and our kids embrace the hate. This is our mantra this year. At the same time, it's our farewell tour. And so he goes, our goal, is we won 12 Big 12 championships last year. The year before we won 13. Our goal is to win all 20 of them. That's our goal, which is what we use to compete for championships. He goes, and I can tell you that's my goal for Steve, and that's our expectation. But people got the last part, but they got the embrace the hate thing more so than anything else, right? So that becomes the big thing. That becomes the thing that everyone's now talking about. And so what happens yesterday? Steve Sarkisian, that comes up in his press conference yesterday. That's something that was discussed on the show before me. And it really discussed on a lot of shows afterwards as well. But it becomes a really interesting thing that Sark starts talking about, because the quote goes, jokingly aside, but not. He goes, I got a letter from the commissioner about sportsmanship the day before that speech. And so I'm trying to figure out what are we promoting to our student athletes, and then go say those type of things. In other words, slightly hypocritical. And by slightly, he means very hypocritical, right? So he goes, I'm not guessing he's going to have his Thanksgiving dinner with us the night before that game. Goes on to say, I get it, guys. We're University of Texas. We're not the fan favorite outside of the state of Texas. We're not the fan favorite when we get out of Austin. But there's a lot of pride in wearing the Texas across their shirt. We've got to embrace the hate. You just can't sit back and taking all the punches and act like it's just okay. Because at some point, you have to go hunt. You have to punch back. And you have to fight back. And that's what we're imploring our veterans to do, our leaders to do. He said, every time we take the field, our opponents are going to give us the best shot. So we may get theirs, we may not. We can't control that. But we need to meet the need to be sure that they give and get our best shot, right? Which is a perfect answer, right? It's a fantastic answer. It's the answer that you want to hear. It's the perfect answer to everything that he's talking about, right? And quite honest with you, I feel like embrace the hate is kind of like the Longhorn 2023 version of whoop, there it is. Like, that's what I feel like it is. Like, I feel like everybody's like, whoop, there it is. I like embrace the hate. I feel like that's where we are with embrace the hate. It's like it's everywhere. Like, Aaron's young. He's my producer. He doesn't remember this, but there was a time where whoop, there it is was just like everywhere that you went. Right? It was almost like rump shaker. Like, it was, you couldn't go anywhere without whoop, there it is. But it was tag team back in. Like, I feel like that's where we are with that whole kind of thing. I got to take a break. But when I come back, I'm going to tell you and break down for you exactly why this hate exists. Because you might be wondering to yourself, like, it doesn't make any sense. Because it doesn't make any sense to me. But let's take a quick pause for the cause. And I want to show down and break it down to you line upon line why they don't like you. And honestly, why you should not give a damn. I'll be right back.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best wide receivers to ever play on the 40 acres, former Odessa Permian star Roy Williams. One of the all-time greats out of West Texas, Williams was one of the last great players to come out of Permian and the Little Southwest Conference, a school and district in West Texas that helped inspire the movie and TV show Friday Night Lights. Williams' prowess as a receiver, defensive back, and track star made him perhaps the single best talent to ever come out of that part of the state. Overall, Williams finished the year as a 5-star prospect in the Rivals 2000 rankings, but actually ranked behind fellow Texas wide receiver signee B.J. Johnson in the rankings, which seemed pretty stupid almost as soon as he hit campus. I can't lie, I had Williams ranked behind Johnson as well, who at one time reminded scouts of former Florida State wide receiver Peter Warrick. In addition to Williams and Johnson, fellow Texas signee Sloan Thomas was ranked as a top 5 in-state prospect, and the three of them became known as the Big Three when they arrived on the 40 acres. As far as Williams' actual recruitment, he was an early commitment for the Longhorns, who had the arrival of 5-star quarterback Chris Sims as a major selling point for all of the in-state wide receiver gems that year. For the most part, Williams was solid as a rock throughout the recruiting process to the Longhorns, although Texas A&M fans were convinced that he would be a late flip in the recruiting process to them, even if there was virtually zero evidence to suggest it would happen. But we're talking about facts and evidence. And when has that ever mattered to the Aggies? At the end of the day, Williams signed with the Longhorns and became one of the best players in the history of the school at his position.
Welcome back, and great job, Jeff Ketchum. By the way, go ahead if you can for me right now, all you people there, especially you guys in the Specs chat line, and of course everyone who's watching. If you just go ahead and hit that like button for me, hit subscribe button to me. I mean, Ryan's toy reviews, you guys would hit the like and subscribe for that. So please, I know I'm not good as Ryan, but please help me. I gotta get my kid to Paris. All right, so nonetheless, let's get back to this whole thing. Let's get back into this whole embrace the hate thing, because I want to break this thing down, and I want us to dig deep as far as this whole situation, this whole conversation is concerned. Because what's interesting in this whole embrace the hate conversation has been the reaction from those upon the outside, those who aren't necessarily Longhorn fans, right? And so you hear the things that they say, right? Man, Texas ain't all that. Texas ain't good in football. Man, the last time Texas was good in football was like 2009, like Barack Obama was the president, right? Like, it's been like that long ago, right? You hear like, oh, Texas, we're back, right? The Sam Ellinger stuff, right? You hear all this stuff. You hear all the negativity. You've heard all of this, right? That they just tell you why you're not so good. Why the Texas brand doesn't mean anything. Like, why Texas is trash, right? That's basically what they tell you, right? So my question to that has been, if Texas is not all of that, if Texas doesn't matter, if Texas is so irrelevant, if they don't matter as a program, then why the hell do you talk about them so much? Explain that to me. Explain that to me. Because I can tell you this, in your life and probably in my life, and I'll use me as the example, I don't talk about things that I don't care about. I don't talk about TV shows that I don't care about. If you tell me about something, I shoulder shrug it, I move on, but I have zero to no conversations about TV shows that I don't care about. I have no conversations about movies that I don't care about. Oscar time rolls around, shoulder shrug, don't care. Haven't seen 95% of the damn movies. If it ain't, we ain't talking about Bruno. I have no clue what you're talking about. That's just not me. I don't care about those things. I don't care about music that doesn't interest me. You won't get me to engage in it or talk about music that doesn't interest me. I don't care about sports, other sports teams that I don't care about. I don't talk about them. I don't give a damn. Like I just don't, it doesn't come across to me like I would want to talk. So the question becomes, if Texas doesn't matter in your universe, if Texas is such trash, then why do you keep talking about them? Because you know why? In the infamous words of Cat Williams, and I'll clean this up and paraphrase it for the morning crowd, but people don't hate on folks who don't have something. You only hate on somebody who has something. I give you an example, right? You've never been in your car in downtown Austin and you've looked at someone in a homeless tent. You'd be like, man, I bet you he thinks he's all that, doesn't he? I bet you he thinks he's all that. You don't hate on someone like that. When you see someone rolling and they've got their car that's held together by like duct tape and stuff like that, you don't roll around. Which by the way, don't judge, because I got a little bit of duct tape holding that little splash thing underneath mine together. It's hard to get into a collision shop nowadays. Like it just takes too long. So I've just been using duct tape. Don't judge me. So when you see me rolling that, you don't think to yourself like, man, I bet you he thinks he's special. Look at him rolling with that tape on his car. You don't say that. You don't see a single parent who's struggling to raise multiple kids by themselves and say to yourself, man, that person's living a life. They don't know how easy they got it. Man, golly, they just don't know. We don't say that. You only hate on people because they have what you want. It's the secret. It's what's really this whole thing is about. And what does Texas have that all these other programs don't have? Why do they really hate? You know what Texas has that they don't have? They have a sustained national relevancy. That's what it comes down to. From a national standpoint, Texas is more relevant than their programs, and that's why they hate. And that's why they hate your Longhorns. Let's go ahead. Let's go here. Let's go ahead and tick off the masses. Let's go talk about little brother down in Lubbock. Let's talk about Texas Tech. Imagine living in a world where you live in Lubbock, or you're a Texas Tech fan living outside of Lubbock, somewhere in the Texas area, whatever the case may be, right? And your wins get overshadowed by a Texas loss. A Texas loss ranks higher from a talking point than your win. When Texas Tech beat Texas, people didn't say Texas Tech won. They said Texas lost. When Texas Tech gets a win, it's a golf clap. When Texas gets a win, it's a national talking point. When Texas gets a loss, it's a national talking point. I'm using Texas Tech as an example because they seem to be the hot topic now, but you can apply that to all the haters that are out there, all the jealous folks that are out there. They're not as relevant on a national scale. They're local. There's nothing wrong with being local. I always use that local analogy when I start talking about concerts. There's a place for the local bands. They perform early. That's what they are. But Texas is the headliner in this conference. Texas is a headliner from a national standpoint. And so this is what happens. Like, it's not just Texas, right? Think about this. You guys watch a lot of the talking heads, right? The ESPN's First Take, Undisputed. I don't know what the name is right now. And then go through all the talking heads at all the debate shows, all that kind of stuff, right? You guys watched all that. Hopefully, you don't watch it while my show's on. Hopefully, you just could go back later at some point and watch it. Hopefully, you just ignore it. But nonetheless, I want you to support me. But nonetheless, get 2 screens. That's fine. But think about what happens on any given like NFL weekend, right? Someone can win a game in the NFC. Be a good game, right? Just be a good game. What's the first topic on those debate shows, right? What's the first topic? Who's the one program they're going to talk about before they talk about anyone else? That's right. Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't matter who did what. Doesn't matter if Green Bay won a game. Doesn't matter if Mahomes won a game. Doesn't matter. You go down the list of good teams. New England, not so much. Just go down your list of good teams, right? Ain't going to be Tennessee. It's not going to be any of that. It's going to be the Cowboys. Win or lose. And that's kind of how it is. And I've used that analogy as relates to Texas. That's kind of the thing is that win or lose, people are always going to talk about you. And so it sucks for those folks that they hate you because no matter what they do or accomplish, Texas will always overshadow any of their accomplishments. Texas Tech beat Texas last season. That happened. We've got to acknowledge that, right? For the record, I'm a Joey McGuire fan. I like him. I know him. I know him as a person. He and I have a good relationship. I respect him. When I went to Lubbock, Joey came over to me, showed me mad love, showed me mad respect. I as a person, I'm just for full disclosure, I like Joey McGuire. And I won't say anything negative about Joey McGuire because I know him as a person, right? So let me put that out there. But I'm talking about the program, okay? Tech beats Texas. And then what happens the following year when the AP Top 25 comes out? They're ranked 26. They're outside of it. Their accomplishment, and they won a bowl game. And Texas lost their bowl game. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter because from a national perspective, Texas is a bigger brand, bigger name, bigger everything. And Texas Tech is little brother. That's why they get mad. That's why they're upset. That's why they hate you. Can't stand you, Costanza. You know, how bitter were they with when you guys stole away Chris Beard from them? They thought why we not want to be here? Now, they were very happy when the whole thing blew up because it made them feel better about it. But when we look at like this offseason, right, and things that have happened, people, when you look at the Colin Cowherds of the world, when you get on like the ESPN shows, when you get on, when people start talking about college football playoffs and this and that, and I'll use Colin Cowherd as a good example, right? He doesn't waste his time or segments talking about Texas Tech. He knows that doesn't move the needle. He knows no one's going to care. He doesn't talk about Kansas State. He understands that that's not going to move the needle. No one's going to care. He can have Joel Klatt come in and talk about that, but he's not going to do that. He's not going to talk about Kansas. He's not going to talk about UCF or BYU or any of those programs because he understands who the marquee team is. Win, lose, or draw. So, and look, understand this. When we talk about what your Mark said at Tech, and to get those fans riled up, he talked about being here in Austin for the game, right? And he's hoping that Texas Tech beats Texas. You know what he didn't say also in right after that? At least we have no record of it. He didn't say anything about, oh, yeah, by the way, I hope Oklahoma loses. Where was that? Oklahoma's leaving. Oklahoma's leaving just the same on the same bus that Texas is leaving on. They're on the same bus. They're going to be on the same flight out of here. All of that. You didn't hear him say that. Why? Because Texas is more relevant. Because Texas is more relevant than OU is. Just kind of is what it is. Texas is a brand name, like Blue Magic. Texas is the brand name, like Coke, like Pepsi, like the Yankees or the Cowboys or Man U, right? Like, this is the thing. Catch is probably listening. He's like, Liverpool. I'm like, no, I wouldn't put Liverpool up there. I wouldn't put Liverpool up there, Catch. I know I hear you, Catch, but no, I'm not going to say that. And the other teams, they're simply programs. Texas is a brand name. The other teams, just simply just good programs. They don't have the big stadiums like Texas do. They don't have 100,000 seat stadium. The athletic department isn't one of the richest athletic departments in the country. They don't have an international fan base like Texas have. They don't have the NIL money like Texas has. They hate you because they're not you, and that's the truth. I repeat it again. They hate you because they're not you, and they will tell themselves that's not it. They will tell themselves that's not the reason why they hate. But there's a reason why they troll you. There's a reason why they come into the chats and start talking about their programs and trying to rip down, the Texas program. There's a reason why they hate you, because they're not you. And they hate you more at this moment because you have filed for a divorce. And you're about to have a sexy new spouse. So, that person good looking, right? If it's an attractive woman, it's an attractive man. He's a model straight out of GQ. Got all his six packs. Big 12 walking around with a dad bod. Just rubbing their belly like this. You're about to go to the SEC. Beautiful, very attractive. By the way, go ahead and start getting some buy or sell questions in the chat too, by the way. If you got some, go ahead and start getting those things in there for me. Because we've all been through like breakups, right? We've all kind of gone through that thing, right? Where you're with someone for a long period of time, and then things don't work out, right? So you guys decide, you go separate ways, even though there's no such thing as a mutual breakup. There's usually one person that's like, let's break up, right? There's never really been a person like, I don't like you. I don't like you. Let's break up. Okay, cool. Like, it's always one person who's like, man, I want to be with you. Then they're like, man, I can't believe you said that. And then it goes like that, right? But in fact, we've all been through it, right? And so, and then eventually what happens, especially modern day, right? For some reason, one of your friends is still like on social media with your ex for whatever reason. Like, you don't know why. Like, why y'all still connected? Like, I don't get it. But somehow you guys are. And they start telling you 6 months to a year later, they're like, your ex is with somebody. And you're like, oh, really? And then they go and show you a picture of it. And if you're petty, secretly you're hoping that person doesn't look better than you. You don't want that. You don't want to feel that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to hear my ex broke up and then she's like with Idris Elba or something. Like, I'm like, oh my God. Like, dang. Like, they just traded up. Like, you don't want to feel like, the man that you was dating somehow like traded up and now he's with J-Lo or something to that effect, right? Who still looks good, right? It was always look good. Like, you don't want to feel that way. Whoever you may think is attractive, right? And then, but if you find out there was someone who's, not as good as one thing, but they trade up, it's totally different. And that's where we are with this conversation. You traded up. Because you traded up, now all of a sudden they don't like you. Because they know you're leaving this relationship that's like, for like, oh, damn. That's really good. You done really good for yourself, son. The Big 12 will never be as sexy as the SEC. It just won't. I give Yormark a lot of credit. And I'll go back to giving him credit. Give him a lot of credit. He was able to save this conference. He was. Over a year ago, people thought this conference was on death's door. He was able to save it, take that thing off of live support, and then all of a sudden you've got a conference that's viable, that it will be able to thrive. They'll be a part of the Big Three, and they'll be great for the conference. It won't matter when it's all said and done. It'll be great for the conference, but it won't matter when it's all said and done because you're moving on to greater pastures with something that's a little bit sexier and it's going to look better than where they're currently at. So I'm all about this whole embracing the hate thing. That's fine. That's fine with me. At some point, though, we got to go a little bit deeper. So let's do this. Let's do this. I need your buy or sell questions. So go ahead, get your buy or sell questions in there. I've got more on this embrace the hate. I've got a second part of this that I want to get into, but I definitely want to get in our buy or sell questions. I'm trying to do a better job of staying on time, making the life of my producers a little bit easier. So being kind of kind to my breaks and not having them just all over the place. So that's why I'm gonna stop this right now. I'm trying to be good, Anwar, right now. Trying to be good. That's when we're going to go to some buy or sell questions. Get those things in the chat right now. As soon as we come back, I'm going to attack those things. And then I've got more. I've got way more on that I want to talk about embrace it because I'm going to go to a different level of something that we need to discuss. So I'll be right back. Get those things in the specs chat line, though, right now.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star super blue chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orangebloods' Jason Suchomel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns' 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a gain for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
Welcome back. Good morning to everybody. All right, it is time. Hope everyone's got a smile on their face. If you don't have a smile on their face, over here to my left, your right, is the Texas OU. It's my media credential from last season. That should put a smile on your face right there. Like you kind of wonder what's back here. Texas OU. That would have been 49-0. It should be that should make you smile today. That should put it like this. Pearly whites. Okay, let's do this. Let's do buy or sell. This is your opportunity to ask me questions. Ask me anything, whether it's serious, off topic, whether it's about the Longhorns, about anything else in life. You need some dating advice. I'm able to do that. I'm really good at the acquisition, the aspect of dating, horrible at retention. So you got to go to retention for somebody else. But acquisitions, I've got you. Horrible at retention, though. But let's do some buy or sell questions. Let's get these things knocked out. I want to answer it. Just as you always know, super chats always put you to the front of the line. You don't have to sit. You have to wait. You get to cross the velvet rope going to VIP. Mike Welch, good morning to you. It's always good to hear from you, Mike. Hope you're doing well, by the way. Buy or sell. Texas beats USC in the Rose Bowl this season. That would be great. That would be an amazing matchup. Be quite honest with you, I would love to see something like that. I'm going to sell only because I've got Texas sitting at a 10-2 record going into the season. So because that would require me going 11-1 or 12-0, something a little bit higher. So I'm not sold on that portion of it. Would love to see that game. Would love to see Caleb Wood. Well, I don't know if I want to see him again. I saw him before against Texas. I don't know if I want to see that guy against Texas one more time. I mean, I know teams are different, but Caleb versus Quinn would be a hell of a duel. But we got to see what USC does. Like, I don't know if USC is going to do their part to get to that point. So I'm going to sell on that one because I'm not convinced that USC is a playoff team either at this moment. Really good, but I'm not. So now going forward, when the whole thing expands, then sure, we may see something to that effect, but not right now, Mike. I'm going to sell on it just because I got Texas at 10-2, and right now for 14 playoff, I just don't think 2 losses is going to get them in. But very, very good. Fantastic question. Money B makes money moves. UT drops 60 on Rice. Buy or sell? So I'm in the 50 range. Is where I'm at. 60 would be incredible. I mean, they scored 70 against Tech, right? So I guess 60 is in the range. Because when I think about it, like my score prediction is probably going to be like 55-13 or something to that effect. So you're not close. You're not wrong, Money. It's very close for me. I mean, they're going to run the ball at some point. I don't see Sark, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't see Sark just airing this thing out in the fourth quarter because I think that's what would need to happen. But that, could they be at 35-0 at halftime? I'm just talking this thing out. Another 35 in the second half. I'll buy. I'll buy on that money. I'll absolutely buy on that. If I was, look, anything, I'm probably betting it over as far as that game is concerned as anything Rice, because anything less, I don't know what the hell that means. But I'll buy on that money. I've taught myself into your 60. May not be my score prediction, but I've taught myself into it. I've convinced myself of it. 60, definitely in the ballpark. Sark after dark goes buy or sell. Halle Berry or Kiki Palmer? So Halle has got that crazy factor to her. Like that's one thing. Listen, if one thing Unc knows, Unc can tell a crazy woman. Like that has been my resume and my downfall throughout my entire life. Unc has been with some crazy ones, boy. I've had all kinds of weapons pulled on me, all kinds of things thrown. Like I like the crazy ones. So I know Halle be crazy. Kiki just got dressed up, and then I think that's all she did. I'm not so, but and she got dressed up. She got the dude pissed off about the whole situation. So Kiki is, she just got dressed up for a good night, and then her man was tripping. So I'll go with Halle because I go with the crazies as always. So Halle Berry for the win for me because I know she's crazy, and Unc's just gonna stay with the crazy ones. Like that will be Unc's demise until I die. So yes, give me crazy for 100, Alex. Give me Halle Berry and go ahead. And by the way, she might be on her act right because she got to pay child support now or spousal support in her last divorce. So I'm going to buy on Halle Berry. That's what I'm doing. Crazy, as RSA, the range. I've tried to wean myself off the crazy ones, but then the non-crazy have they have more issues that require way more counseling. Just stick and move. Just moving is one thing. The counseling, that's a little bit worse. Text guy, good morning to you. You were very active yesterday. Glad you're back though. Buy or sell. Texas Tech would go to the SEC if asked tomorrow. Text guy, buy. So listen. Texas, let's just be honest. Let's keep it a buck. All right. Texas was a program that said to themselves, you know what, Texas A&M, SEC, it ain't all that. It don't matter. Blah blah blah. He said, Chris Nelson said, Unc has a type. Yeah, Paul Prince. But and Chris, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you know, Ted, right? And Texas was like, man, we don't care about the SEC. And then what happened when they got an invite? We in the SEC, right? It's like people who are like, you know, you grow up as reminds me of the Next Friday movie where Craig is finally coming, you know, to the new house, and you know, and the Uncle Leroy, he was saying, you know, listen, I know I was the one that said I was going to represent the ghetto. I know I was the one that said I represented the hood, but as soon as I won my money, I was gone. That's what Texas is like. They're like, man, I know we said the Big 12 is good. I know that we said we're going to be here and make this thing work. I know what it was, but as soon as we got an invitation from the SEC, we're gone. So yes, if Texas would do it, Texas Tech would do it. The problem is Texas Tech ain't big enough to be in the SEC. So because of that, they would never get the invite. And that's the harsh reality, and that's the harsh truth. Good one. All right, I got another one. Give me another one. Darian BT. He goes, buy or sell. We'll see Arch play more than Malik in blowout games. I'm going to sell on that one. I know what you're getting at, Darren, but I don't think that's a good choice. At the end of the day, Sark has to have a balancing act. He has to balance this thing out. And the last thing Sark can do, the last thing he can afford to do, is have a situation where Malik just feels like he's not that dude. Like he doesn't have a chance. So if he does that, Darian, understand you're telling him you can go. Like you're gone. Like we're good without you. Go to the transfer portal in December, find a new home. And you don't want that. Because here becomes the issue. If Quinn's good enough to leave, and he's good enough to go to the NFL, which is going to be the expectation, and Malik left, you've got Arch Manning as a redshirt freshman, and then what he got behind him. That's kind of where you're at the moment. So you can't do that. You can't afford that. So because you can't do that, and because you can't afford that, that's why I don't think you see Archer more. I think you see them at just about the same, but Malik getting more of the reps. And that's how you keep them all engaged and how you get them all motivated. Texas boy taking advantage of the super chat. So I'll go ahead and get to you first. You know, appreciate you throwing that in there. And Aaron, do we have more super chats, by the way? That's there. Okay, I saw four of them, but I'm just maybe misreading. Texas boy. Buy or sell. Bama will have at least 5 defensive linemen go down with cramps. What will be their excuse this year? Hey, I mean, you know, it's I'm going to sell on going to that approach again, but I see what you're getting at. 100%. I don't know what the excuse is going to be. There'll be an excuse though. Like they'll find a way. This is home field advantage. Like I've told you guys, like do not be surprised if every road game Texas doesn't have working AC in the locker room. Like don't be surprised. Like don't be surprised for all that's going to happen. But no, I'm going to sell on that. But I get what I 100% get what you're getting at. I'm picking up what you're putting down as relates to that. But it's a very good one. All right, let's get to some other ones on the buy or sell. That was a funny one, Texas boy. Deborah, good morning to you. She says, buy or sell. Without Texas and Oklahoma, the Big 12 is a second-tier conference versus the Big 10 and the SEC. I mean, I'll sell on that, Deborah, and here's why. I mean, so one of the things that just came out, and Dick Ketch had one of these, I think he said it on his show, is that, you know, some people said that the SEC, that the Big 12 actually have like the toughest games this season out of any conference. You know, at the end of the day, I get the thought process. Do they rank up there with the SEC? Probably not. But that being said, how far away is the Big 12 really from the SEC? Like, not that far. Texas Tech had a win against Ole Miss in the bowl game. We know Texas was competitive against, and had a hell of a win, to be quite honest with you. We know how Texas was competitive against Alabama. I don't think when it comes as relates to this conference, they're that far off. The SEC's glory, they've got all the names and they're sexier and all those kind of things. I don't think they're second tier. And then the other thing that's important to me, Deborah, is that when you look at the conference, like there's only going to be three that is really going to be the big three that are going to be involved. And the Big 12, I mean, they've got the contract. Like they've got that TV contract that's going to make them sustainable and viable more so than the other conferences that are kind of on the outside looking in. So, well, the SEC will always have the name, but I don't feel like the gap between Georgia and any team in the Big 12 is huge, right? We set them our best. Woo! We were like, oh, we are not ready for that. So Georgia, for sure. But when you look at the other teams in SEC, I don't think the Big 12 is that far off from a competition standpoint. So I'll sell on that, even though I get what you're saying as relates to this conference. I know, to hell with them all at this moment. I 100% get what you're saying, but I don't necessarily think that's 100% the case. But the good question, Deborah. Thank you for throwing it in the chat. Just a dude, buy or sell. Good morning to you, just a dude. Buy or sell with the weapons at receiver. Start calling the plays. Quinn breaks the Longhorn passing record this season. And that record, Aaron thankfully puts in the chat for me so I don't have to look up, is 3,859 yards is the single season record. Buy or sell that happens for Quinn. We're going to sell on that one. I've got Quinn right around like that 3,400 mark, maybe 35 if all goes well. Like that's where he is for me. Getting to that 4,000-ish mark, that's asking a lot. For me, like that's I've got to anticipate that everything goes well. I think Prize Picks. Do you remember, Aaron, what the Prize Picks number, the line was? I feel like it was like 3,300, if I remember correctly. And I don't have it in front of me. I feel like it's like 3,300 or so, or maybe it was 2,900. Might have been the Prize Picks line when I think about it. Catches out there. If he does, he may remember. But nonetheless, I think that's asking a lot. So I want to sell on him having that. I mean, if he does 3,800 yards, I mean, we're talking about like Heisman right now. And I'm not quite sure I'm ready to say he's going to have a Heisman-like season. I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, Quinn Ewers, Prize Picks has Quinn Ewers at they've got the line. Just a dude, I would tell you like this. If you feel strongly about that, Prize Picks has got they've set the line at 2,950.5. That's the line that Prize Picks has. So you're almost 1,000 over that. So, if you feel strongly about that, make sure our show on Thursday. We'll get you the promo code. You sign up for Prize Picks, and then go ahead and place that bet if you feel really strongly about that. But that's asking a lot. So I'm going to sell on that. That's a hard ask. All right. Let's do a couple more. Let's do a couple more in here. Buck Wild, who offered to host a show with me out in front of Specs if I wanted to. So, Buck Wild, we should do one just in the aisles. I want to do it. I want to do a show on a sample day. That's what I want. Just when they got all the samples out there, and it's kind of like you go to like a Costco or something, and they just got the little cheese and stuff on the sticks. Like I want to go on a sample day to Specs and do a show. Buy or sell. Your mark does not go to the Red River this year. Ooh, great observation. I'll buy. I will absolutely buy on that. That is, you're 100% right, Buck. Wow, that's a great, man. That's astute right there. That's good stuff, man. No way he goes. No way he gives a damn about these two programs. And what's he going to do? He's not going to hand a trophy to anyone. Like that's the lie. He's not going to give someone that golden hat. Like he's not going to do any of that. He doesn't want any parts of this thing. So unless he feels like the team has a chance of winning, he's not going to show up to any of those programs. He's going to be all about the programs that are there. That Red River now becomes an SEC, kind of one of their part of their rivalries. So no, he absolutely doesn't go. But here comes the interesting thing. It's really because of the interesting question. I've asked this before, and we've tried to come up with the answer. When Texas and Oklahoma leave this conference, what is the biggest rivalry? What is the rivalry that's out there? What is it? Is it Baylor TCU? And you're not watching that. You're not trying to tune in for that on a Saturday. Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. Bedlam's gone. Red River's gone. What is the big rivalry that's here? What's the big game? They're going to have to manufacture one. They're going to have to find one, but they don't have one. It won't be the same when it's all said and done. But by the way, Chris, I mean, I get it, but I'm talking about big conference rivalry. Not out of conference. I'm talking about the Big 12 in conference, Texas OU conference, Oklahoma State conference. What's left in the conference that no one, Cincinnati versus UCF? None of this is going to move the needle. This is why they're so mad. They'll have good games. There'll be a very competitive conference. Absolutely. But is there going to be one game? They won't have something like the cocktail party. They won't have like something like Red River. Like they'll have nothing similar to what we're talking about. They won't have what, Michigan and Ohio State have. They won't have any of those kind of things. And yeah, even if we go KU K-State, I mean, and you're not watching that. You're gonna tell me on the Saturday you're gonna get a watch party like, hey man, we got a big game on Saturday. Whoa, what's up, party at my house, man? Okay, man, I'll bring a bottle or something. What's the game? Kansas State versus KU, dog. Shoot, what? Nothing. Just nothing. There's nothing that's left. Aaron, do we got more by ourselves? One more. Let's get that one more knocked out, and then we'll do a quick break. Let's do Calvin Gilroy. Good morning to you, Calvin. My cousins growing up was named Calvin. So it's like, how people do. Like, we were like, that's our cousin. He's not really our cousin, but nonetheless, he's our cousin. He's my cousin. But so Texas ranks in the top 5 at the end of the regular season. Because again, I'm going 10-2. Because I'm going 10-2, then what happens in a Big 12 championship game, I don't know. What happens in a bowl game after that, I don't know. If they finish in 11-3, for instance, but that would be good. But I don't think that's top 5 good. That's top 10 good for sure. If you ask me top 10, I believe in like top 10. But if you're talking about top 5. Top 5 means you probably were in the CFP and lost. So I'm really not quite sure about that. Good question, though. Good question. I like it. I like where your head's at. I'm sure El Presidente would 100% agree with you, but we don't have that. All right, let's do this. Let's do another quick break. And then when we return, I will finish up some of what I was talking about and started talking about in the first hour. We start talking about these slogans and all that kind of stuff. I've got more to say about this. So get ready. I've got a lot more. Don't go anywhere. And by the way, while we're on a quick little pause, go ahead and share this video with some of your friends and let them know, hey, I got something cool for you to watch. I'll be right back.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best defensive playmakers for the Texas program over the last decade. I'm talking about edge rusher Joseph Osai. Osai was one of the best players to come out of Tom Herman's 2018 recruiting class, although he was a low 4-star prospect who only ranked number 31 in the state by Rivals.com. Not a single recruiting service had him ranked as an elite prospect or inside of a national top 125 list. When we look at Osai's recruitment, it was pretty cut and dry fairly early on that there were 3 schools that stood out above the rest. From the summer of 2017 all the way into October and November, Osai kept a top 3 of Texas, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. Of the Longhorns, Osai said that Todd Orlando and Oscar Giles used the following sales pitch on him. Quote, "They tell me I could be that Nashawn Hughes type of player. When I watch some of these close games that they've been in, I can place myself in that defense and see myself making the moves to finish those plays. I watch how I could impact the defense and picture helping some of those close games be wins." The battle eventually turned into a Texas versus Texas A&M battle, with Tom Herman's staff taking on a Jimbo Fisher staff that had just replaced Kevin Sumlin. In fact, the Aggies had been considered the heavy frontrunner for Osai, but the dynamics of his recruitment changed the moment Sumlin was fired from Texas A&M. It was the opening that the Longhorns dearly needed and received. In fact, by the time January had rolled around, Orangebloods was reporting from an A&M source that the Longhorns had taken the lead for Osai. On the last weekend before signing day, Osai took a surprise official visit to Oregon, but it still turned out to be a battle between the Longhorns and Aggies all the way up until signing day, when he eventually chose the Longhorns.
I've been looking in the chat, in the Specs chat line, and Mike Torres has now come up with one of the big rivalries. He's calling it the Holy Bowl with TCU versus BYU. Mike, that is very, very clever. That's extremely, extremely clever. Yes, maybe that becomes the new rivalry, the Holy Bowl. That. Now I'd watch that. Now that I probably would watch. Mike, really good. I'm glad you're in a good mood, Mike, and I'm glad you're feeling good considering Austin FC lost in the final freaking seconds over the weekend. I was in Mexico. I still watched the thing, and this team's getting me. Man, why you got me into this team, Mike? Goodness gracious. I'm going to go back to F1 racing or something. Love you, Mike. You're my dude. I'm still not going to stand up in that section though. It's too. I need a seat. No, I'm just telling you. I like where you at, but I still can't stand over there. I need a seat. Stop saying soccer sucks, there, Darwin. Like you've got to stop. Every time I mention it, Darwin, you always go there with soccer sucks. I used to feel that way. And I don't anymore. I have enlightened myself, Darwin. You, of all people, who has the name of Darwin, should be the most enlightened of us all. Your name is Darwin. How can you be so narrow-minded with the name of Darwin? Your parents are looking at you, Darwin. They're like, man, where have we failed? Our son feels like soccer. Soccer doesn't suck. You just don't understand it. That's what it is. It's an international game for a reason. But nonetheless, I'm not going to go there because then I'll lose what I have left. Hit the like button. Please hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. So let's get back to this whole slogan thing, right? Let's get back to that whole thing that I kind of started off the show with about an hour ago as we're still killing a little strong. Jason Suchomel will be here in another 90 minutes for all our recruiting stuff, our recruiting updates, and go from there. So as we talk about like embrace the hate, right? And we start thinking about slogans. In order for a slogan to work, it's important that it has substance. Like for a slogan to work, it must have substance. It just can't be empty words, right? There has to be more behind the slogan. So I started thinking about some successful slogans, right, throughout the years. And so I think about some of the most successful ones, right? Nike, just do it, right? But it worked because the sneakers were good. So you feel like sometimes the Jordans, aren't comfortable for some odd reason. I don't understand that. You don't want to actually ever play basketball in Jordans. But Nike, just do it, end up being a really successful slogan because the sneakers are actually good sneakers. They're very stylish, right? Apple had Think Different, right? That happened. McDonald's. Fantastic one. I'm loving it. Right? Simple. And you guys know it. If I go right now, like you've got it, right? Very successful slogan. And then there's still people that love McDonald's, right? And this is a lot of you guys that love McRibs. I know there's a contingent of people who have a guilty pleasure for a McRib. Are you guys one of these McRib people? Are you a McRib person when the McDonald's has a limited amount of McRibs? Are you one of those people like, I've got to get a McRib? Because I know in Orangebloods, like that happens a lot. People love that thing, right? Ladies, L'Oreal, because you're worth it, has been a campaign that has worked for a number of years. Lay's chips, right? Or was it Pringles? Pringles was it? It was bet you can't eat just one. It's Pringles. It was I don't think it was Lay's, it was Pringles. Burger King went with like have it your way, right? I was just thinking of a couple of others, Bounty, the quicker picker upper. And State Farm, right? Like that's an easy one, right? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And all of that works because the product works. The product is certified. The product is bona fide. And so once you get past like the hype of it, you got to have a good product. You guys remember Clear Pepsi, right? I mean, they had a cool slogan. And then you had to drink clear soda. You're like, I don't like this. This thing's horrible. Those things happen. Those things happen a lot, right? And so, you can have all the slogans, all the t-shirts, all the hats, all the whatever you want to print out like that. You all do that. You can do all that. And if you're Texas, this embrace the hate thing sounds great. You can buy all the t-shirts that you want. Embrace the hate. Get wristbands and bracelets that say embrace the hate. Like you can do all of that. It'll be really cool. It'll be real catchy. But if you don't have the substance, and if Texas doesn't have the substance behind it, it doesn't matter. It just is what it is. It's another slogan. It's putting the T back in Texas. It's 1-0. It's all those kind of slogans of let's ride, like all that kind of stuff. Like that's what that thing becomes. And the difference, I've always there's a saying that it's like the difference between a movement and a moment is sacrifice. Like it's very easy to have a moment, and we've all seen moments in life, right? Like Texas defeating Georgia, that was a moment, and it was a great moment, and we thought it would become a movement, but it wasn't. It wasn't a movement. At the end of the day, the people that put in that work in order to make that moment into a movement of something that you would see year in and year out. It would just end up being a singular thing. And so in order for, embrace the hate to be more than just some moment that we're having here in August, that's a really cool moment. In order for it to become a movement, there's things about Texas and this program that are going to need to change and things that we're going to have to see this season. Let's go to it. Let's have an honest conversation. That's the thing that we're always going to do. We're going to have honest conversations. We're never just going to talk about it. And I'm not going to be a person that's going to get on here and wear, fans apparel or things to that effect. And just, I'm not going to put on a UT hat and be like, yay, yay. And I'm not going to piss on your leg and tell you that it's raining, but we're also going to be very respectful and also be very optimistic as well. But there's also sometimes that comes a dose of reality. We have to have that dose of reality as relates to us having this conversation about embracing the hate. You want things that they need to change. Let's talk about it. The last time Texas went undefeated in non-conference play in order to start the season 3-0. 3-0. You know the last time that was? 2012. That's the last time Texas has gone undefeated, literally 3-0 to start the season. Texas beat Wyoming 37-17 that year. They beat New Mexico 45-0. Then they beat down Ole Miss 66-31. And so you've got to start there as far as just starting 3-0. Like imagine every year, this is what we always talk about. It's like it's like all these high expectations. Oh, maybe we can compete for a national championship, get in the playoffs, all that kind of stuff. And then what happens? Texas loses a non-conference game, second game of the season. And then what happens? Because the conversation switches to, well, all our goals are still in front of us. Still got opportunity to win the Big 12. And that was a goal when it started the season. Like, that's the talking point that happens all the time. Too many times. Every year. The past 11 of them. So Texas has to get past that point. We get it. Steve Sarkisian. I don't know. By the way, I don't understand. I don't want the show to go off the rails, but I will say this: people keep and as Paxton, I see what you're saying, and Aaron, you don't have to put that on the screen, but I've had people tweet and say certain things, and there's people have equated some sort of racial connotation to embrace the hate. And I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, and I can't connect the dots to understand it. Like, there's a lot of dots I can connect. That one I can't connect. So yeah, when I say embrace the hate, I haven't understood that one. So and people, I feel like it's real direct and really simplistic. So the other stuff I'm struggling with. Paxton, I hear it, and I'm like, yeah, honest, I don't get it. I don't get it, but I get what they're talking about, right? When we talk about Sark, like, yeah, we got to have that honest conversation about Steve Sarkisian. Sure, he has only had his most amount of wins is 9. And look, and I've given him a pass, as far as that is concerned, because he never got a chance to finish what he started. So I've given him a pass as far as the whole 9. He hasn't done more than that. And I know there's some Washington years. You can say to yourself, like, all right, but what happened in Washington? That should not have happened. And I can get that, and I can get that portion of the conversation. But this is a good chance, a good opportunity for Steve Sarkisian to eliminate any doubt as to who he is as a head coach. Because he goes out and gets 10 or more, it's all good. But again, this can't just be a slogan. It can't just be a cool little moment. It's got to be a movement. And these are the things that need to happen within that movement, right? So 13-12 has happened. That's got to be a better record. We need to be, at that point, we're talking about like 23 and 14, regular season record, and going from there, get into 24, 25, and whatever that case may be. Another thing that's going to happen this season, guys, ladies, over the last 2 years, Texas is 3-6 in road games. It's not good enough. It just isn't. 1-4 in 2021, 3-6. Actually, that's 4. That should be 4-10. No, 3-1. I think I typed in the wrong one. That 3 wins last season. So nonetheless, I got to figure this one out. They're 3-6 in road games, pretty sure. So nonetheless, Aaron, figure that out for me. Can you look that up for me? Because I feel like I typed in something. It was like 5:30 in the morning. Nonetheless, it's a losing record. Aaron will figure it out for me real quick. Nonetheless, it's a losing record on the road. They finally started getting some wins on the road last season. K-State, Kansas, those things happen. But going on the road, Alabama's on the road. You got to be able to handle business there. Baylor's on the road. Got to be able to handle business there. You got to go to Fort Worth. Got to go to Iowa State. Like, you got to be able to handle business there. Can't slack up against a Houston. Like, these things must happen for it to have that success. And being a team that goes on the road, if you're going to talk about embrace the hate, then yeah, you better be able to embrace that hate for road games. Like, because that's where the hate's going to come. And that's where Texas is going to have to be better when it's all said and done. That needs to occur. That needs to happen as far as, like, you want to embrace it. You're going to be hated. Bama won't hate you as much because Bama's been successful. So Bama's looking forward to a good game, competitive game. But Baylor, not so much. The other teams, what were they in year one though, Aaron? The other teams that you're going to, Houston's going to hate you. They may not matter because they may not be that good, but the other teams, TCU is going to hate you. And then, teams like a Tech, they're going to bring in some folks and they're going to hate you as well. So you got to be able to go on the road and And check that out. Paxton asked me, does the first Big 12 game in Waco make me nervous? Yeah, it does, actually, Paxton. It does. I'm not, I think Baylor, and I might be wrong, but I think Baylor is a tricky team. They really are. They are okay. So yeah, 3-6. The 3-6 in road games is ends up being what that is. Thank you, Aaron. I was 3-6, so they were 2-2 last season. I don't know where. I typed the wrong thing. But I think Baylor's a sneaky good team. I think Baylor's a team that can just can do some damage, and they're not a team that I would sleep on. So they're a team that we know is going to be well coached. We know that's a hostile environment to play in, not the easiest place to win for Texas. So yeah, I'm looking at that, and I know when people ask about the tough games this year, and if people always point to the Tech game at the end of the year, I'm pointing to that game, the start of Big 12 play. As good of a coach as Zaranda is, like yes, that's not a game that I look at and say you should feel really good about. Now I will be able to go out. The one thing I do like about Waco is what's that place called? Health Camp, where they got like the food stand there, like they got the burgers and stuff. Like I do like that place. Like that place is pretty cool. And the stadium is pretty cool as well. If we want to talk about other things that need to improve, back to my subject at hand though, then we got to talk about the new and improved Quinn Ewers, right? That has to happen. Like we need to see that in order to know, like, all right, this thing is going to be absolutely different. Now, listen, I'm all about this whole embracing the hate and all that other kind of things. And then there's reasons for optimism, right? In the notes, they talked about Sark. There's an 8-5 record, but all 5 of the losses last season came by 7 points or less. So we're not talking about a team that got blown out of anything. We're talking about a program and a team that was there, that was knocking on the door for many potential victories. And so there is that thing where you say, man, if they just do a couple of things differently, then things could be better. Now, listen, I understand. You could go down the list. You can say, well, Texas could have won this game, last year, and this and that. But there's also the games that they could have lost as well. So the Iowa State comes to mind, right? That's a game that they could have lost. So there is that. So I get it. It works both ways. It works absolutely both ways. But when it's all said and done, when we talking about this team, again, there's got to be, this thing can't just be a moment where it's like a really cool pep rally, back to state, like back to state kind of thing where everyone is wearing the same t-shirts and it's really cool. It's great. It's great for the moment, but can it last? Everyone was down with mullet mania last year. You guys were down. You loved it. People wore mullets to the games. It was like mullets. Then things didn't happen. And then, you see fans throwing their mullets outside the stadium. It's kind of ridiculous, by the way. But you saw that happen, right? So, because again, it can't just be a moment. This thing has to move into the journey of having a movement. And if they could go into a movement, then it won't be something that we look back on about August. You're like, man, well, that was fun for a little bit. No, this can't be just putting the T back in Texas. It can't just be that little cool little moment. This can't be about 1-0. It's got to be a little bit deeper than that. It has to be the start of something special, more so than anything else. Let this be the start of something special. Let this be the start of the movement, as opposed to just being like a feel-good moment where we have these t-shirts that eventually get donated to another country. And that's for damn sure what none of us want. All right, let's go ahead and do another quick pause. When we come back, I'm going to do some social media standouts. I haven't done that in a little bit. So when we come back, let's do some social media standouts. I've got my main man, Jason Suchomel, going to be joining me for some recruiting updates. Don't you dare put those fake names and try to throw me off like you did last week. I know what you're going to do. I'm going to look for it. You're going to see me here or on my phone looking for this thing. Don't you do me like that. It's all right. It's all fun. It's all love. I'll be back with just in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Got a lot more to talk about.
Corey Redding, the linebacker from Galena Park, North Shore High School, USA Today rated him as the best high school defensive player in the nation. That's incredible. Today he verbally committed to play his college ball for Mac Brown and the Horns. He's the kind of defensive difference maker the Texans hadn't been able to get in years past, so it appears things are changing.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the most important recruiting wins in the history of the Texas program. Former five-star defensive end Corey Redding out of Galena Park, North Shore. To completely understand the significance of Redding's commitment, you have to understand the context surrounding the recruitment. Redding's recruitment occurred just 2 years after another five-star defensive end, David Warren, bypassed the Longhorns in favor of Florida State. New Texas head coach Mac Brown was trying to put the finishing touches on a #1 ranked recruiting class, but he had to overcome the stigma that great defensive players didn't go to Texas and that the Longhorns couldn't go into the Houston area and land a truly elite player that didn't play his football in the suburbs. It wasn't going to be easy for the Longhorns, as Redding's top three included Colorado and Arizona, with the Wildcats having a big edge with Corey's brother Chris already in the Arizona program, which had his mom wanting both players to play their college careers together. Colorado was actually viewed as a potential party spoiler, but while Redding was on his official visit to Boulder, CU head coach Rick Neuheisel took the Washington job. And that basically eliminated the Buffs. That left Arizona and Texas to duke it out. And when push came to shove, Redding couldn't leave the Lone Star State. Moments before he announced his decision, Redding informed his mom that he was selecting the Longhorns. He told her, quote, "I'm a Texas boy. I want to go to college in Texas, marry a Texas woman, and have Texas babies," while she broke down in tears at the news. Moments later, he told the world the news.
Corey Redding, in 1998-99 season, will be attending the University of Texas.
Redding's commitment sent shockwaves throughout the recruiting landscape as Mac Brown's dominance in recruiting in Texas began that day and rarely slowed down for the next decade and a half. The Longhorns finished with the #1 overall recruiting class in 1999, with the USA Today's Defensive Player of the Year representing the cherry on top of a very tasty sundae.
I spent time with him and myself, and I was like, I want you to put it on my mind the next morning when I wake up. When I woke up, my hands was holding up that hooking sign.
Now that is dedication, boy, Corey Redding. Corey Redding said that he was not only did he want to be a Texas Longhorn, he wanted to marry a Texas woman. Like that, boy, that's dedication to the home team right there. Like that is dedication to your state. Where you're like, man, I don't want to marry a woman who's not from Texas. Boy, I mean, well, maybe that's what that's been Unk's problem right now. Yeah, the first one, she was from Florida. The other one was lived out in Portland. I gotta get me a Texas one. This next marriage will be a Texas one. No, God help me. You guys do a super chat that get an intervention if Unc says he's getting married again. Please do that. All right, listen, we didn't get a chance to do it yesterday because this is one of my favorite parts of the show. And they get a chance to do it yesterday because Steve Sarkisian was speaking to the media, and I had to get down there to the 40 acres. I had to get down there to UT and be able to ask some questions, so on and so forth. So they didn't get a chance to do it, but we finally have a chance to do it now. So let's go ahead and get into our social media standouts. And South Enzo, you're right. Isn't Beyonce from Texas? I mean, if Beyonce was from Texas, then I absolutely need to do that. Speaking of Texas, all right, the Texas Longhorns tweeted out, coming to the LCL stage, Pat Green, September 2nd on the LBG lawn, free admission, part of the Longhorn city limits. This Pat Green will be performing. I do have a question for everybody who's out there, and please do not judge me because you might feel that way about some of my music that I listen to. Who is Pat Green? I do not know who Pat Green is. Tell me who what Pat Green sings, he's got a guitar, so he's got to be country. So I got that portion of it. What are Pat Green's greatest hits? I'm serious. This is the beauty of our world. The beauty of our world. Like, that's why I don't really watch like music shows, because I only listen to like a small amount of just things that I like, and I'll go outside of it. I mean, I like listening to different things. Don't get me wrong. I don't know who Pat Green is. He's a country guy, right? So what does he sing? He's not that person that sings like that. Bump you, you send me wrong, and then he's all talks about the FU. It's really bad FU country song that's out there. That's really entertaining, by the way. But I'm assuming it's not that. So you got to tell me what this person sings. Is it worth me going out there to check it out? Will everybody know? Is he a big name artist? Is he a smaller name artist? Like, I just need some point of context for who this person is, because he's got to be big enough to have this platform. I just don't know who he is. And I've seen people saying wave on wave, but I don't know. You guys might be having your own conversation in there, so I'm just going to ignore you. Let's do another one that's out there. Let's do another one. Let's get into this. Okay, now check this out. Can we go into this? Because here's the thing about being a social media standout. It involves two things. You can be a social media standout for doing something good or doing something bad. So apparently, you can see this thing. If you guys are on Twitter, you can go find this video. There's a video, and Aaron did a great job. I mean, a great job of getting these screenshots that are in here. Dude decides that it's a good idea to put his arm in the mouth of an alligator. When they talk about that F around, you go to F around and find out scale, he found out very, very quickly that this was a really, really bad idea. And the question really becomes, and there's a lot of questions that become, because obviously this is what they do for a living, right? Why? Like, I don't understand people who go out with animals and then when these animals do animal things, they get surprised that the animal acted like an animal. Like, it's kind of like Chris Rock used to have that thing about the tiger. You know what he used to say? Like, people used to think that the tiger was crazy, when he attacks like one of the handlers. And Chris Rock was like, no, the tiger went tiger. That's where I'm just like, dude, you literally put your arm in the mouth of the gator for, I don't even know what you're getting paid, but it can't be that much. Can't be enough for a gator to potentially snap your arm off, all for some little kids to go, ooh. Like, by the way, Aaron, have you ever had gator tail? Have you ever had that? You ever had gator tail? It actually tastes pretty good. Speaking of exotics, when I was in Mexico, random thought, I tried an ostrich burger, and I had an ostrich burger in Mexico. I'm gonna tell you, Aaron, it actually was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I was very worried about it. I wasn't quite sure how this thing was gonna. It wasn't roadside. Like, it was actually at a place where a restaurant that I actually went in. They had ostrich signs and everything. Like, Aaron, I'll send you some pictures during the break of it. It actually looked. I wish I could show you a picture. I should have pre-planned this. But first of all, gator tails taste very, very good. In the ostrich burger, if you ever have a chance to try it, surprisingly, this thing tastes really good. Aaron, I'm going to send this thing to you on our Slack. Can you come in real quick, Aaron? Can you come in? Can you come on screen real quick? All right. Let me send this to you right now, Aaron. I'm sending you on our Slack channel. All right. I want you to pull this thing up. Now, look at that. It looks better than you may have thought. It's called like a Mexican ostrich burger that had all kinds of condiments in there. There was some avocado that was in there as well, some melted cheese. that was in there, some melted Swiss. It was actually, I wish I could show it on the screen. There you go. There you go. If you guys can kind of see that. This was the Osh's burger that I had. Very, very, very good. I'm just gonna throw that out there, kind of random. I saw you shaking your head in the background, and I appreciate you coming on, Aaron. But nonetheless, this kind of went down a side path that was there. Craziness. Gator tails taste good, and I bet you that guy's arm tasted even better to that gator. All right, let's do another one. Let's do another one. What we got? Okay. So this is what I don't understand. So Barstool had this thing. And it's basically these K-State students, basically back at the first day of school, having this huge all-out brawl out there. And what's crazy is you can see people sitting like on a roof in the background. Like, I don't know what kind of party this is. And all this is, can I just be honest? All this is are just a bunch of guys who just don't get any. Like that's what you're seeing right now is and Aaron's pointing out, he's like, there's a kid getting rocked in the back. Like, if you guys look at it, there definitely is a guy. If you see, he's got like this like aqua shirt that's on, and he clearly is throwing a punch to someone that person is not going to land. It's kind of like at 11 o'clock on your screen. That one, that's talking about the F round and found out. But all these guys, I'm just telling you, like, when you're at a point in life where you've got some sort of game and you're able to, be able to go out on dates and date successfully, fighting is like the last thing you want to do when you go out, right? It's not what the mission is. What we had a mission when we came out tonight, and we're here for that mission. We're not here for anything else. But the fighting dudes, the I gotta fight dude, that guy, he don't have no dates. He's got a lot of pent up testosterone that it unleashes that. And here's the other thing. I'm sorry, if I send my kid to college and I'm paying for this college, hell, even I'm not paying for it. If you're fighting, it better be for self-defense. It better not be because you're at some stupid keg party or something to that effect, and now all of a sudden you want to fight. Like, boy, why aren't you studying? Is this what they do at K-State? You just want to fight each other? Like, nah. The hell with that. Stop that. Guys, this is what I don't understand. Guys, all these women are around. What are you doing? What are you doing? All these ladies are here. All these ladies. And you just want to focus in on this dude, huh? Okay. You just want to fight some guy as opposed to talking to one of these beautiful women. Okay. These guys I will never understand. And that maybe I'm just because I'm older. That just kind of is what it is. Let's do a couple more. Get a couple more knocked out. Let's get a couple more knocked out. Okay. Dan Wolken. I'm gonna get you guys a little bit kind of riled up here. So, first of all, Chris sends out a tweet, and it's from Herb Street. And this is what he goes, this is one of those graphics that potentially comes back to haunt you. This is everyone kind of putting Texas down as a Big 12 champion. So you see all of them are on the board. You got Dej, you got Pat McAfee, you got Herb Street, like all that. And then Dan Wolken comes in. He goes, just kind of go ahead and pour that alcohol out in the party. Steve Sarkisian is 59-47 as a head coach and has never as much as sniffed a conference championship. Sorry, I'm going to need to see him do it before I'd predict it. Who's your least favorite college football writer right now? It's Dan, right? So listen, this is one of those things where I get where Dan is talking, what's coming from. I get what he's talking about. The record is the record. It cannot be denied. I get that and I understand it. But that being said, just because someone hasn't done it doesn't mean they can't do it. But I get Dan's point. I get what he's saying. We'll find out. The truth will be revealed. If I was you guys, I did what some of you guys do with me. Just bookmark it. Just bookmark it. Go to his Twitter thing, bookmark it, come back to it. And then after Texas wins the Big 12 championship, then you just let them have it. You just let them have it all afternoon, all evening long, and it'll be all fun and games. So there is that. Aaron, how many more do we have? How many more? We got one more? All right, let's get that one more knocked out. Let's do one more social media standout, and we'll move on to some other stuff. Yes. So this is what I tweeted out, and what I said that the Big 12, this is in response to your mark, and I said the Big 12 commissioner really said this. I wonder what he told the referees who will work Longhorn football games this season, which I thought was very valid question. And a lot of people jumped onto that one. And Sherry jumped onto this one as well. She goes, shame on you, Brett Yormark. She goes, I'll be in town for the game. When Texas wins, they deserve an apology. Don't be so salty because we are going to a better conference. Good luck to the Big 12. And for that, Sherry, that's a mic drop for you. That's a mic drop for Sherry. Hey, when Texas wins, they deserve an apology. Don't be so salty because we are going to a better conference. Good luck to the Big 12. And it's simple, it's pure, and it's right to the point. Haters are going to hate. What did I tell you? Haters are going to hate, but they only hate on people who have something. And Texas has something that a lot of people want. Someone says it's going to be the mid-12. It is what it is. But they'll enjoy their 14 teams, and you guys will enjoy going on to Green and Pastures. All right, speaking of Green and Pastures, I'm going to have Jason Suchomel coming on pretty soon. So you guys don't go anywhere. Get your recruiting questions ready for him. We had a great segment last week. Going to have another great one this week. Let's go into a little bit of a break. When we come back, it's time for us to talk about depth charts. Let's get into this topic because there's a lot to unpack and discuss there. So we got some depth charts coming up. I can't wait. Don't go anywhere. Send this video to some of your friends. I got a lot more coming.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback takes a look back at the single lowest rated recruit of the 2020 recruiting class and one of the 5 lowest rated position players that the Longhorns have signed in the last 5 recruiting cycles. That's right, I'm talking about senior All-American linebacker Jalen Ford, a lowly 3-star prospect who ranked as the number 127th ranked player in the state of Texas per Rivals. Yeesh. Ford's recruitment began in earnest in the spring of 2019 when he picked up 16 offers by the end of May, including Power 5 offers from the likes of Kansas, Minnesota, Utah, and Texas Tech. Still, the recruiting services paid him no attention. After taking unofficial visits to Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Hawaii, Ford took his first official visit to Texas Tech in late May. Quote, "This is my only official visit for the summer," Ford said at the time. "I'm looking to visit Washington State and Utah early in the season, so maybe I'll be ready around September, then make a decision and announce my commitment shortly after that." True to his word, the trip to Utah proved to be a game changer for Ford as he committed to the Utes on October 8th of his senior season, right after taking his official visit to see the Utes. Very quietly, though, the Longhorns became involved in his recruitment a month later. After Texas assistant coach Tim Beck visited Ford at his high school, Tom Herman called him a week later to offer a scholarship. Ford did a good job of keeping the news of Texas's interest under wraps. In fact, in early December, Ford told Orangebloods that he hadn't even been talking to the Texas staff. At the time, Lone Star was alive in the Texas State playoffs, and Ford said he wanted to remain focused on his team's playoff run. Once Lone Star season came to an end on December 14th, Ford began to focus on his upcoming decision, and he finalized the decision to commit to Texas a week later. "It was really right before I was going to sign," Ford said. "At that point, football is over. I finally had some time to sit down and think. The day I didn't sign, the first day of signing day, I had to call Utah and Texas. It was a little bit chaotic." On December 23rd of 2019, Ford committed to the Longhorns, and the rest is Texas football history.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to the Old Fashioned Sports Show. I'm your host, Anwar Richardson. Go ahead and do me a favor. Hit that like button if you haven't done so far. Nearly 200 of you guys watching live at this moment. And also hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that as well. We got tons of shows that are coming up every single day, seemingly. So we got morning till night. We've got you covered. You hit subscribe. You always get the notifications. You never miss out on anything. So make sure you hit like, please hit subscribe, and please participate in our Specs chat line. Enjoy all the conversations that are having and being had over there. And I'm going to have Jason Suchomel from Orangebloods.com in here at 9:20, so probably within the next 30 minutes. And he's going to break down everything that's going on from a recruiting perspective for you as this week of football is about to get started. I mean, Hank Williams said it best. I know him. Are you ready for some football? I know him very well. I remember those good old things. I missed that one. I missed that intro. I definitely missed that intro. He messed it up, but I still missed it. I missed that intro though. Let's talk about this though. Let's talk about this. Let's start off with this conversation. I'm gonna move myself a little bit closer to you. There are, in my opinion, and I've covered all kinds of sports, and I've covered sports to kind of give you kind of a background of things that I've covered before. Yes, I've covered the NFL. And I covered the NFL for years, covered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, covered Detroit Lions. I worked at Yahoo as an NFL writer before I was a Hall of Fame voter. That's what's over to my left shoulder. So I've done that. I've also covered baseball. I covered the Tampa Bay Rays when I was in Tampa, of course. Because where else would I have covered them? I've covered the hockey team, the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. I was a backup writer there, covered a hockey team and traveled with them for a few years. Actually, when covering the hockey team, they actually used to allow media members to have a seat on the plane. And so you had to pay, but you could actually have a seat. And so I actually got a chance to actually fly the private charter jets. I gotta admit, that's kind of badass. I'm not gonna lie. The hockey life was a really good life at the time. I don't know if they still allow that anymore, but I got a chance to do that. I also have covered boxing. Covered boxing for a number of years. Been to, Mike Tyson fight, Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis in Memphis, Floyd Mayweather fights, Oscar De La Hoya, like you name all the big time ones in that era. I've saw them, Winky Wright, Antonio Tarver, Jeff Lacey. Went to England, Manchester, in order to cover Jeff Lacey fighting Joe Calzaghe over there. So I've done that, right? So I've covered a lot of different things. It's not a brag or anything of that fact. It's just to give you kind of well-rounded, including high school stuff, which I loved covering, by the way, back in the day. So I've learned through all the sports that I've covered throughout all these years of coverage and being a reporter, I realized that there is really no group of people who are more paranoid and controlling than college football coaches. College football coaches love to have control. That is the one thing about college football that they love more than anything else, is being able to say, I control this. And they do it, and they do it exactly well. Remember back in the day, and I point this out a lot. Remember back in the day, the transfer rules? Remember when back in the day when a young man would want to transfer, the college football coach had all the control, right? Because not only would you have to sit out, but the college football coach could say, well, you can't go to this conference, 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 and then that kid is stuck. Now at that point, he's going to have to go to Division II, Division 1A, AA school in order to continue to play. But that coach was able to control everything. That's why I tell you, that's why these college coaches don't like NIL, because the players have control, as opposed to the back in the day, they grew up and they had control. Like you would just think about you as a parent, like you have all control. Like imagine a day when your child is controlling you. Like, man, I don't like none of this. That little boy, I'll smack that little boy, right? There was a time when college coaches used to be able to do whatever they wanted to do. There was a a basketball coach, college basketball coach in the state of Florida told me this story one time. He said it in a public setting, so I'm sure I can repeat it. So his name is Gordon Gibbons. He coached at Florida Southern College. Really good coach, right? And he said this at I think it was at one of these like Tampa Bay Basketball like Association like get-togethers, right? And so he tells a story that one day there's this junior college that's recruiting an athlete, and they bring the junior college kid in, and they take him over to the University of South Florida, and they showed him, the gym. They show him the floor, like, show him around campus, this and that. For somehow, some way, they've convinced that kid that that was going to be the school that he was playing at, and that was going to be the campus that he was going to. Kid goes home, he's all excited, he feels good. Kid flies back, and then the kid is on I-75 as they driving him past the University of South Florida, all the way up to the school that he actually was going to be to, because the USF wasn't the school. That's what college coaches used to be able to do. They can say anything at that point, and there's nothing you can do. Like, he already flew in. He's screwed at that moment. He's like, damn, they got me. Like, it ends up being a story that he tells his friends for the rest of his life, but that's exactly what happens, right? And he knew he couldn't leave. There's a reason why NFL, I've covered NFL, I've covered college. There's a reason why NFL coaches who come from the college realm, why college coaches in the NFL fail all the time. Whenever it happens, I can see it. I'm like, it's not going to happen. Pete Carroll is the exception, because Pete Carroll understands what needs to be done in the NFL to survive. But never forget, we may talk about Nick Saban being the GOAT as relates to college football. He was a failure in the NFL. Failure. Urban Meyer. Talk about flame out. That was a flame out. By the way, did you see the University of Florida thing on Netflix? It was actually pretty good. Wasn't too bad. I could see the building up of Meyer so he could get another job. Like, it's just crazy how that happens. Urban Meyer failed. Nick Saban failed. Matt Rule recently failed. Steve Spurrier failed. Bobby Petrino failed. Greg Schiano failed. Cliff Kingsbury failed. That's what happens. And the reason why a lot of these people fail is the NFL is built different than college. Not because of the athleticism of the players. The NFL is different because you've got to put up with a lot of crap. The NFL is different because in college, you can yell at a player and get in his ass, and that's kind of expected. The college coaches, when they try to bring that to the NFL, they always get shut down. That's not, I'm telling you, the players run the NFL. I've seen players will curse you out and not think twice about it. There's a story where, and I'm going somewhere with this because we're going to get to the depth chart in a second. I remember when I was covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had went to England and they had played against the New England Patriots. And so they had lost. Tom Brady was on the team at that time. And I mean, the New England team. And I want to say, and Josh Freeman, I believe, ended up quarterbacking in that game. And they lose, right? They kind of get blown out, right? And so the entire time they're in England, they don't get a chance to do anything. So after that game, there's supposed to be a curfew. And there was a handful of players that said, we don't give a damn about your curfew. So what happens? These players come back. They've been drinking, having a good time. The GM's waiting in the lobby. Coach is waiting in the lobby. And they're wanting to know, where the hell have you guys been? One of the players, who you guys would know if I named them, one of the players starts cursing them all out. And then he said to him, what are you going to do? Cut me? You can't cut me. So you know what? Shut up. You know what they did? They shut up. Because in the NFL, that's how it works. It's unlike college football. That happens. When I was in Detroit, I remember covering that team, and at one point, the Ndamukong Suh had this reclining chair in the back of the defensive line meeting room. Now, most meeting rooms, you have like the table and then the chairs, right? That's what you have. You have the table and the chairs. And everyone sits at the table, and everyone's chair. And that's all the position rooms. Like that's standard operating procedure. Ndamukong Suh decided that he would have his own chair. It would be a recliner in the back of the room, Nebraska red, and he would sit there and chill. And that would be he relaxed because he didn't have to. And who was going to tell him that he had to? Nobody, because that's not how the NFL works. The players control it. Coaches don't. That's life. And so eventually, somehow, some way, this becomes like a public thing. This gets out there. And then I didn't do it, but someone else did. And then what Ndamukong Suh does eventually, kind of like smooth things over. He buys like chairs for like everybody in the room, so then everyone else can have chairs as well. But originally, he was the only one. That's how this whole thing works. But in college, it becomes a little bit different. You know, in the NFL, in college, you know, in college, they get to control media access. In the NFL, we have open locker rooms, right? You can go in, talk to who you want to, so on and so forth. NFL, you can do that. College, they bring them to you, and you speak to who they decide who you want that you should speak to, and they make sure they're prepped for the interviews. In NFL, coordinators are made available throughout the week. In this capacity in college, we get them once a year. Once a year. Because in college, you can control anything. You know, in NFL, players have to talk to you. In college, they do not. So college coaches control everything. And you know what we're seeing now from a control aspect, kind of a new thing? The depth chart. Because I'm telling you, I believe that the annual tradition of depth chart releases is about to die a slow death. Now, I asked Sark about the depth chart yesterday, right? And I was very specific with my question. I asked, like, hey, you've had a battle back and forth with Arch and Malik. You know, you've had that battle, CJ Baxter, Malik Muhammad, you know, and I forget there was another person that I had mentioned. And I said, asked specifically, where are they on the depth chart? Sark nods. Feel like, you know, it's a good question. And then he just proceeds to tell me, like, oh, the guy's going to keep battling. And I'm like, what? That's not an answer. That's or at least that's not the answer I was looking for, because I asked you a very, very direct question. And Sark, you didn't answer my question. Why did you not answer my question? It was a good question. But here's the thing. Here's the bad part. And thank you, Shay Frazier. I appreciate that. Thank you. That actually means a lot to me. I tried to put some thought behind my question. So I actually appreciate it. So I thought to myself, that's specific, like the ocean. Is he going to be able, I know specific, but nonetheless, is he going to be able to answer my question? He didn't answer it. So I left there thinking, like, man, Sark didn't answer my question. That's some BS. Like, I wish he would have answered. And I wasn't like despondent, but I was just thinking, like, man, I wish he would have given me, like, this is where the guys are on the depth chart. I was expecting a depth chart release yesterday. That didn't happen, right? So all those things, right? Then we come to find out that Sark's not alone, because Nick Saban decided that he wasn't going to release a depth chart either. And according to one of our rivals' websites, it's the first time since 2007 that Nick Saban hasn't released a depth chart for their upcoming opponent. Which, by the way, it's not like they have Georgia that they're playing, where you say to yourself, like, well, I understand why you need to keep that thing, under wraps. It's like something like what is it, Aaron? It's like Middle Tennessee, I think, is what Alabama's opening up against, like Middle Tennessee. So like it's not like you got to really protect like yourself from Middle Tennessee. Like, man, I don't want them to have states' rights, but yes, thank you. It's Middle Tennessee State, but This is what he says. This is what Nick Saban says. And it was really interesting. He goes, I know that your number one focus is not on the game. It's on the depth chart. He goes, look, there's a lot of competition on the team. And when we put a depth chart, you all think that it's final. Like this is etched in stone. Like that's the way it's going to be forevermore. Just because we've come out of fall camp, that's where it is. But he also goes on to say that, just because they come out of fall camp, that's where it is. But it creates a lot of distractions on our team and guys thinking, well, this guy won the job and I'm not going to play or whatever. And quite frankly, Nick Saban goes on to say, we don't need that, right? He says, I want all of our guys to continue to compete for playing time and try to play at the highest level. And I don't want anybody on our team to think they're a backup player or whatever. And so here's one thing we know, and I can tell you this. If Nick Saban does something, every other college coach follows suit. Right? Every other Nick Saban goes ahead and he's the person that hires analysts and hires former college coaches to be analysts, and everybody else was hiring former college coaches to be analysts. Like Nick Saban is the person, he's the standard that everyone looks up to. So if Nick Saban says it, this is what he does, and this is a plan of attack, that's what's going to happen. But can't give you a kind of look, I won't say it's a dirty little secret, but can we go behind the veil for a second and let's have an honest conversation? I always tell you, in life, it's not always about what people say, it's what they don't say. Sometimes you got to listen with a third ear to what is being said, but also what's not being said. And you know what this power play from college coaches is all about at this moment? Whether it's Sark, whether it's Saban, and whereas everybody else is going to follow suit because they're going to think to themselves, well, damn, that program isn't putting out a depth chart. Why am I doing it? Right? Everyone's going to say, like, he's doing less than why am I doing more? I'll pull back as well. But this power play is about one thing. Transfer portal. This is what this entire thing is all about. It's what this entire thing absolutely boils down to. It's about the transfer portal. Don't be deceived. Make sure you understand it and make sure you believe it. This whole thing is about the transfer portal. It's all about, because here's what happens. And this is what their fear is. It's what they won't necessarily want to tell you, but this is what their fear is. Let's say Anwar Richardson's on the team. I'll use myself as an example. Anwar Richardson's on the team, and Anwar Richardson ends up finding out that I'm the third string guy or I'm the fourth string guy, and it's on paper. I can see it. I can see it. Mama can see it. Daddy can see it. My family can see it. My agent can see it. You know who else is going to see it? Another program. Maybe a guy who recruited me. And I didn't go to their program. And he's going to call me up and say, Anwar, hey, guess what, man? So you were fourth string there at UT. You come over to my program, man, you got a chance to start. Really, coach? Yeah. Man, if they're not going to use you, I can use you. Why are you going to sit there on the bench the whole time? You come over here, bro, you got a place. Really, coach? Absolutely. Come over. Until I'm all right. I'm going to be there. And that's what they're scared of. It's really what this boils down to. They don't want other programs to now have an in with the players on their team. And here's the other thing. When that happens, and a person is thinking about leaving, it's that what do they call it in the workplace? They call it short timers, where you're about to take another job, but your whole attitude changes, your whole demeanor changes because you got something else better lined up. So you're like, I don't really care that much. Why? I don't have to. Because I know I'm leaving. That's what happens with the short timers thing. So this whole everything. And this is why I know because Sark said the same thing. He wants to keep guys competing and they'll figure out on Thursday. But I'll be surprised if we get an official depth chart. It'd be great, but I think that's going to be something that's internal as opposed to external. Now, players will know this week. Make no mistakes about it. Players will know this week. Why? Because they have to have practice this week. You can't have competitions going into Thursday. You got to have a first string. You have a second string. You got to have a Rice scout team, right? So if you have to have a Rice scout team, we know these are scouting. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so he may not be telling us at this point, and he's trying to keep that carrot dangling in front of guys. But the reality is, these guys know. We'll know, and we'll know exactly come Monday, or rather on Saturday. But yeah, if you're Sark, you say, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to expose myself to the transfer portal. If you're Saban, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to expose myself to the transfer portal. If your other programs, they're going to do the same exact thing, but then a little bit more because they like if they're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it either. So that's what this whole thing is. That's why I say depth to the depth charts. I think it was great. I feel like we had a great run, but I feel like it's over. All right, Aaron, let's do a quick break. I'll be back. I got Jason Suchomel coming in 15 minutes, so don't you guys go anywhere.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best wide receivers to ever play on the 40 acres, former Odessa Permian star Roy Williams. One of the all-time greats out of West Texas, Williams was one of the last great players to come out of Permian and the Little Southwest Conference, a school and district in West Texas that helped inspire the movie and TV show Friday Night Lights. Williams' prowess as a receiver, defensive back, and track star made him perhaps the single best talent to ever come out of that part of the state. Overall, Williams finished the year as a 5-star prospect in the Rivals 2000 rankings, but actually ranked behind fellow Texas wide receiver signee B.J. Johnson in the rankings, which seemed pretty stupid almost as soon as he hit campus. I can't lie, I had Williams ranked behind Johnson as well, who at one time reminded scouts of former Florida State wide receiver Peter Warrick. In addition to Williams and Johnson, fellow Texas signee Sloan Thomas was ranked as a top 5 in-state prospect, and the three of them became known as the Big Three when they arrived on the 40 acres. As far as Williams' actual recruitment, he was an early commitment for the Longhorns, who had the arrival of 5-star quarterback Chris Sims as a major selling point for all of the in-state wide receiver gems that year. For the most part, Williams was solid as a rock throughout the recruiting process to the Longhorns, although Texas A&M fans were convinced that he would be a late flip in the recruiting process to them, even if there was virtually zero evidence to suggest it would happen. But we're talking about facts and evidence. And when does that ever matter to the Aggies? At the end of the day, Williams signed with the Longhorns and became one of the best players in the history of the school at his position.
What's up? Welcome back. Appreciate that, Jeff Ketchum. Appreciate all of your hard work this weekend, giving us new stuff. Ketch did have a great point, though. He had a fantastic point. He's like, how many of these do you expect me to do? Like, he does have a good point. Like, hey, he appreciates everyone that's watching the channel. Like, you want people to watch the channel, but he can't do like 300 of these. Like that's going to be asking a lot. Like, he literally is going to be going back in the archives, and he's literally going to be like, well, back in the day, he was served in the Army, and then he came back, and then he played for the University of Texas, and then he and then next thing you know, he had to go back to the Army, got deployed, but then he came back and he ran on the wishbone offense. Like, he can't do that. He can't do those recruits, right? Like, why'd you come to UT? Well, because I could. Like, I got out of the war, and so you get at some point, there has to be some sort of balance to it. So there is that. Props to HEB, though. A good protein shake that's there. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go back to my predictions from yesterday. I did not get a chance to go through my predictions and finish a lot of my predictions from yesterday. So Jason Suchomel should be here in about 10 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and knock out some of my predictions for the upcoming season, because I'm dying to get into what the predictions for my upcoming season look like. All right, so here's the thing that I was telling you yesterday. And here's the thing. If you didn't do this yesterday, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do this today, okay? So yesterday I told everyone I needed them to get in the chat, and I needed them to put in their regular season record prediction. And here's what I said. I said, put those predictions in because you got to be on the record. You have to be on the record before the season starts. I don't want to entertain, nor will I entertain anybody at the end of the season who tries to tell me I predicted this would happen. Unless you can show me a proof, I will not take. It's going to be like Vegas. You can't tell me you bet on a game and not show me your slip. I need your receipts. So here's the deal. If you did not do this yesterday, right now in our specs chat line, go ahead in the chat and go ahead and put your regular season prediction. Give me your win total. Is it 10-2, 11-1, 12-9? If you didn't do this. And second thing is, I need you to screenshot it. So once you put it in the chat, screenshot it. I know what I wore yesterday. I know what I'm wearing today. So you put that in the chat if you haven't done that. Screenshot it. We'll come back to that in December. And then I'll address the people who were absolutely correct. If you didn't do that yesterday, but go ahead and do that now. Screenshot it for your records because I want to make sure you're on record. No, a good thank you, Todd, because like if Todd comes to me and Texas is 11-1 and he goes, man, I predicted 11-1. I'm going to say, Todd, did you? You're going to have to show me that. And then we'll find a way. We'll put like a collage together or something like that. We'll have an email. I'll put a collage together of the people who predicted the correct thing. I wish I could give you guys a prize. But you know, that's kind of hard. That could end up being like 1,000 prizes. I don't know someone is willing to give away that many giveaways. So we'll do that. So my prediction for the upcoming season is 10-2. Okay. I couldn't talk myself into 12-0 because I thought it was 12-0 was a little bit of a bridge too far for me. I couldn't talk myself into 11-1 because I thought I'm giving myself a lot of benefit of the doubt, and I'm giving the Big 12 officials the benefit of the doubt. Whew, I don't. That's a lot. That's a lot to give. Like I'm not quite convinced on both of those. Like, but 10-2. Like David's saying, like I'm really good with 10-2, and I'm really good with saying they're going to be the Big 12 champs. So I'm really good with that. But I have other predictions as well. I have a ton of them. So let's get into some of the other things that Unc is predicting for the upcoming season. Predicted Big 12 finish. And by the way, Money B, that the whole happy hour thing, that was something we talked about, but then we were also supposed to have and I had someone really give me a good spot, but then I was told to kind of hold off on that because maybe there may be something that at one of these other partners, and so it ends up looking like an opportunity that I'm regretting that we didn't do, but I'm gonna get another one done at some point this season. So I'll don't worry about it. I'll work on it. Money B. So nonetheless, all right, let me get on my other preseason predictions. So let me get to my predicted Big 12 finish. Okay, I have Texas and Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game because I think we're all on Texas. I don't know where the rest of you guys are as far as who else will be there in the Big 12 championship game. I'm going Kansas State. I know some of you guys are going Tech. I think Ketch went TCU when we spoke yesterday. I don't know if you guys have any other programs that are on your radar, but I still got to go and say to myself, Kansas State is the reigning champs. So I have to give the reigning champs some sort of credit. So I will go ahead and give a Kansas State that's there. Chris Roden goes ahead and puts in, you say, Worthy, a dark horse Heisman. Chris, I don't know about that. I mean, I think that your hope would be he would be good enough to win the Bolitnikoff Award, but we have to have one help to be a receiver to do that. I mean, he would have to have one sort of life-changing kind of season that we haven't seen from him thus far. Like, we know he's got the ability to really get open, like all those kind of things, like all the praise to him. But Heisman, that's too far. Like, that's too far for me. I don't. If he gets to New York, that would be an amazing thing. But I think Bolitnikoff is probably more of what you should be shooting for. So I'm just throw that out there. So let me give you my predicted finish. So it's going to go Texas number 1. I've got Kansas State at 2, followed by Texas Tech at 3, TCU at 4, and Oklahoma at 5. So that's my top 5: Texas, Kansas State, Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma. My next 5 goes Kansas at number 6, Oklahoma State at number 7, UCF, new program at 8, the Golden Knights. Or are they the Knights? They used to be the Golden Knights back in the day. I don't know if they're still the Golden Knights or are they the Knights. And then 9 at Baylor, and then 10 BYU. Okay, so 9 at Baylor. So 10 has got BYU. 11, I got Cincinnati. 12, I got Iowa State. You want to bet on it? 13 is West Virginia. And I've got Houston at dead last. So I've got Texas at 10-2, winning the title. And so then we go from there. You're like, all right, what Anwar? If you got Texas at that 10-2 mark, what bowl game are you predicted for them? I'm predicting for them the Cotton Bowl. That's exactly what I'm thinking. That's exactly what my thought process is. I got 10-2, and then winning that one, and Texas going to the Cotton Bowl because I don't think they're going to get into the championship game. Now, listen, if there's a way for Unc to go to the Sugar Bowl, would love to go to the Sugar Bowl. Would love to go back to the Sugar Bowl. That would be amazing. Look, give me a week in New Orleans. I could think of worse places, like Killeen. The people of Killeen, you got the lovely people always catching strays. I can think of worse places that go to a bowl game, right? They don't have a bowl game in Killeen, right? But I do that for Mike Hart, who watches the show. Then he does that. Hey, Aaron, can you do me a favor? I sent Suchomel the link, and now he's asking me for the link. I don't understand what that's all about. But nonetheless, I got them going to that one. Or maybe I didn't send them the link. It looks like I didn't. So apparently I'm the idiot. So I got Texas. I got Houston as the worst team in the Big 12. Let me go down some of the other accolades that I have, some of the other preseason predictions that I have. Quinn Ewers as my offensive MVP. I've got Jalen Ford as my defensive MVP. Special teams MVP, Keelan Robinson. That's my prediction there. Freshman of the year, I've got Anthony Hill. And then I've got a bunch of others as well that I'll get into. Here's what we do. I'm going to pause on the predictions because I'm going to get some predictions from Jason Suchomel, who I want to hear what his thoughts are for the upcoming season, talk recruiting and things to that effect. So get ready because we're going to get a lot of things that are coming up. Aaron, let's do one quick little break, and then we'll be able to bring in Jason. And do we have the speakeasy thing back as well? Okay, that sounds great. So let's go ahead and get Jason Suchomel in here. So let's do a quick break, and then as soon as we come back, Jason Suchomel is here, recruiting guru, to answer all your questions.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star Super Blue Chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orangebloods' Jason Suchomel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns' 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a gain for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
All right, it is time for us to go into the Speak Easy Lounge and bring in my main man, Jason Suchomel. Jason, how are you doing? Adidas it is.
New Adidas, Anwar. New Adidas.
One. Where did you get this one from, Jason?
Oh, man, I'm a cheapskate. I was at TJ Maxx, and it was like $7. And I said, I got to get that just for Anwar. So I bought it a week ago, dude, and I did like 3 or 4 shows on this channel since then. Everybody's like, you need to get a new hat. I was like, I got a new hat, but I'm waiting until I'm on with Anwar to break out the new hats.
Do you have a contract with Adidas? Like, what is the loyalty points here? What is this about?
I don't even wear Adidas tennis shoes. I have back in the past, but I don't even wear Adidas tennis shoes. I don't know, dude. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I don't know why I have Adidas. So.
That is awesome. Well, again, now you've thrown us off, right? Because you've got 2 Adidas hats that are here. You've got another one that you kind of throw in there. So I'm never going to know what hat that it is. But I'm always going to put.
I got Yankees hats, Steelers. I've got Rivals hats. I've got hats out the wazoo. I really only probably cycle through 2 or 3 of them, depending on the sports season. But yeah, so I have probably 25 hats. I probably wear 4 or 5 of them.
Nice. All right. So, Jason, before I get into anything recruiting related, and by the way, if you've got recruiting questions, go ahead and start getting those in the chat. Jason, I've been doing a lot of things from like just kind of a general prediction standpoint of the team. Ketchup was on yesterday. He kind of gave me his thoughts as to why he kind of went with 9-3. Mm-hmm. I'm predicting 9-2. I'm asking everyone to be on the record. What is your season prediction, the regular season, and give me the why as relates to it.
You're at 10-2, correct?
I'm at 10-2.
10-2. I actually just posted my 3-2-1 Anwar maybe 45 minutes or so ago. And I, like you, I'm at 10-2. My reason, I just think, and honestly, like I could talk myself into 11-1 just as easily as I can 9-3. Okay, and I get it, man. This team has pulled the rug out from under us umpteen times, over the last 10 years. I get it. I'm usually the last guy to stick my neck out too far. I'm like, you have to show me before I'm going to make any of these wild estimations. But I don't know. I look at this team. I look at the talent on offense, and then I look at the schedule. You got Alabama, of course, in Tuscaloosa. Not sure that's not a winnable game, but let's just call it a loss. Okay, Texas is going to be an underdog in that game. I broke down the rest of the schedule. I don't really know where I see that second loss. Now, inevitably, I said, hey, they'll probably have a second loss. They'll play a game where they just don't play a clean brand of football, and they'll play down to the competition, if you will. And I'm estimating that they will lose one game that they're going to be favored in. So, but I don't know where that game comes from. I said Rice win, Alabama I put as a loss, Wyoming win, at Baylor tricky but win, Kansas win, Oklahoma always tricky, of course, win, at Houston win, BYU win, K-State in Austin, they should win that game. I went with a loss at TCU, not because I think TCU is going to be a better football team than Texas on a week-to-week basis. I just think every team has one of those games where they just kind of are sluggish. They don't play well. It's on the road at TCU. You know, I'm a big fan of Sonny Dykes as a coach. So ultimately, I've got 10-2, and that's me just kind of assuming they stumble in a game that maybe they shouldn't otherwise. I mean, I can easily talk myself into 11-1. Listen, man, if some of these fans in the chat say 12-0, I'm not even going to disagree with that. I think that's possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. I think this team will be able to outscore just about everybody it plays. I think the defense will be good enough to win close games. And I think the experience factor, they gained some good experience last year in some close games, some tough losses, some close wins. I think this team I just think it has an edge to it and a confidence in it that it'll be able to win some of these close games if they're not always having an A day on the field. But yeah, I've got Texas at 10-2, and I feel pretty good about that prediction.
So Jason Suchomel for Orangebloods.com. So Jason, let's talk about both scenarios, right? So if 9-3 happened, what happened within that season that you would predict, like, okay, these are the things the stumbling blocks that occurred. This is why this team finished 9-3, which, by the way, which is crazy, Jason, wouldn't be the end of the world.
No.
I don't know. Texas fans would be happy with today. They wouldn't be happy with it. Maybe they talked themselves into it at the end of the season. They're like, well, I guess 9-3 is not that bad. And then give me how you could talk yourself into, 11-1. What would happen on that end?
Pretty simple. I think it ultimately comes down to two things: Quinn Ewers' performance and health. If Quinn Ewers is the guy that I think he's going to be, and I think he's going to take pretty significant strides from last year, that's how I think they get to 11-1. How do they get to 9-3, or God forbid 8-4? An injury at the quarterback position could certainly put that in play. Or maybe if Ewers isn't the guy that me and a lot of others think he's going to be this year, if he doesn't take the significant steps that I'm expecting him to. Listen, if Ewers, takes makes a little bit of progress, but not a huge amount of progress, this team's going to find itself in a lot of close games, as it has last year and the year before and the year before. And I mean, those close games, I mean, we've talked about it before. Hey, this team is a few plays away from having 2 or 3 extra wins. Yeah, they're a few plays away from having 2 or 3 extra losses in these close games. So 9-3, I could certainly see happening if Ewers doesn't play well, if Texas has some key injuries, if they find themselves in a lot of close games. But I just think this team, I mean, I look at the schedule, Anwar, again. I mean, most of these games, I'm expecting them to win by 10 points, 14 points or more. And that gives them a little margin for error. If you have a turnover or, a fluke play or whatever, special teams touchdown by the other team or something crazy, that gives you a little bit of buffer if they're probably going to win most of these games by a couple scores. So I don't expect Texas will find itself in as many close games as we've seen, the past, whatever it's been, 7-8 years, it feels like. But, that's how they get to 9-3. If Ewers isn't on his game, and if they're just in these tight fourth quarter games and the ball just does not bounce their way in the end, kind of like maybe what we saw at Texas Tech last year.
Jason, and I'm going to ask you another question, and we'll get into some recruiting stuff in a second. But this upcoming game this weekend is Rice, like this finally a game that's here. And so I'm kind of curious from you, Jason, kind of a two-parter here. What are you wanting to see, from this team, at that Rice game? And the second one is a little bit more complicated, Jason, which is once Quinn Ewers comes out of the game, how does Sark manage the quarterbacks kind of situation? Like he obviously didn't go into my depth chart question when I asked him about it yesterday, right? But he can't have a scenario, right, where it's Malik playing the entire third and then half of the fourth, and then Arch just comes in for a few snaps as cleanup. So I'm clear. It's like, so one, what do you want to see out of the Rice game, and your prediction as to like how you think he'll manage the backup QB situation?
Yeah, I'll touch on the quarterback here in a bit, but you're right. Your question, Sark really danced around it. And any question that even remotely involved depth chart, it was like, oh, we'll figure it out later in the week. Like, dude, you probably know by now.
You're practicing this week, Jason. Like
Exactly.
there's a scout team for Rice that you have to present to your starters.
We'll know on Thursdays. I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. But what do I want to see from this team, Anwar? I've kind of thought about this over the weekend, and everybody says, oh, it's game one. It doesn't make a big deal, and there's so much improvement that happens from game one to game two for most teams, and don't get too high or too low, which you see from week one. I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, I go back, I've been doing this a long time, and I remember, when Mac Brown's teams, of course, would come out and just beat the pants off of teams, 63-10 or 57-3 or whatever it might be, and then I remember times they'd come out and they'd look a little sloppy and they'd still win. But they'd be like, oh, wait, they won 35-21. That wasn't quite what you were expecting. And same, with Tom Herman teams and Charlie Strong teams. I tell you, you can tell a lot, I think, in week one, just how dominant a team is. This is a Rice team. And I know Sark talked them up, and Quinn Ewer said, oh, they're good in the middle. And Sark said, hey, they do have good schemes and they play hard and they're well coached and all that stuff. This is a game Texas is 35-point favorites last time I checked yesterday. Texas needs to come out and just beat the pants off of them and have this game over by halftime. If this game in the third quarter, Anwar, is like 27-17 or something like that.
Oh, my God.
Then I'm like, uh-oh. Even if Texas goes on to win, 34-17 or 42-17, I'm like, uh-oh, that's not a good omen for this team moving forward. I mean, this game needs to be over in the second quarter. If Texas is going to be the type of team that, you've seen people predict them in the college football playoffs. Okay, if they're going to be that kind of team, this game needs to be over in the second quarter. If it's within a score or two, late in the third, midway through the third, then I'm like, oh, that's a bad omen for this team moving forward. And maybe a lot of people, including me and maybe you, maybe we have this team wrong and we overestimated them again. So, and your question on the quarterback situation, I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but that's a real, how does he handle that? Yeah, traditionally, right, Quinn would play, he'll probably play into the third quarter. If Texas is leading the way I think they will be in the third quarter, then he comes out in the third, your backup comes in, plays 2 or 3 series, and like you said, your third guy comes in and just hands the ball off. Well, I don't know if Sark can afford to do that, because that kind of tips his hand, right? And that tells you a pretty clear indication that this guy is our clear number 2. So does he come out this week maybe split reps? I don't know. Maybe split series. Okay, then people, of course, will read who gets the first one. But, hey, Malik, you get the first series because you got a little bit more experience. You put in the time. Arch, you get one. Malik, you get one. Arch, you get one. And then, 3 minutes left, you put in Charles Wright to hand the ball off or run out.
Charles Wright!
Yeah, man. So my man Charles, yours and my man Charles Wright. So
yeah, I'll get a jersey one day.
Yeah. So, that's a good question, man. I don't know how you handle that without creating too much of a talking point. I almost feel like splitting series back and forth, give each of them maybe 2 series. I think that might be the way to go, but it's going to be fascinating to see. And I've said it even before fall camp ever started. That was my biggest storyline I was following, was who's going to win the backup quarterback spot. And here we are, 5 days from game day, and we still don't know. So it'll be interesting.
Jason, let's go into the subject kind of recruiting, but kind of the subject of the main part of your 3-2-1 is obviously Parker Livingston. I was in Mexico, Jason, and all I kept seeing was like Parker Livingston. There's a way to open up a season, and the way he opened it up was beyond crazy, I haven't seen anything to like that. So tell everybody about Parker Livingston. I know you spoke to him, but tell everybody about what the hell this guy did on Friday night.
Yeah, well, he's the Texas receiver out of Lucas Lovejoy High School. And Lovejoy was playing a really good College Station team that's been in the state championship, Class 5A state championship, I think the last 2 seasons. So they weren't playing a slouch, right? This is a big game on a big stage. And Livingston goes off for 12 catches. Got it right in front of me. 252 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. He had a passing touchdown of 52 yards on a double pass. There was a perfectly thrown ball. And he is a tremendous baseball player, so he's got a good arm. But, I mean, a beautifully thrown ball on a 52-yard touchdown pass. And Anwar, then he had a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown that was called back on a flag. So, yeah, I talked to Parker and kind of highlighted him in my column in this week. And I was like, dude, did you ever even like lie in bed and just dream or fantasize about this kind of performance? He goes, no, not really. You know, nothing like this. I wanted to come out and play hard and play well and get the win. And he just said, like, I said, hey, man, I like to play basketball. And, you know, those of us who play basketball or other sports, sometimes you just feel like you're in a zone. I said, that hoop feels 10 feet wide. I said, as a receiver, do you get that kind of feeling? And he said, yeah, man. He goes, I just felt like, because my routes felt crisp. I felt quick. He goes, anything that was coming my direction, I felt like I was going to catch it and hang on to it. So he did. He said he just kind of felt like he was in a zone and just kind of hit him as the game was going on. Like, wow, this is just, I won't say it was coming easily to him, but it sure sounded like it was. But what a tremendous start. And, you know, I like Parker because Parker's pretty honest, man. And Rivals has him ranked right around 150 nationally. Listen, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? That's in the Rivals 250. Some of these other recruiting services don't even have him like ranked nationally. I don't you know where they have him. But he's way down their list on their rankings. And I asked him, I said, dude, does that motivate you a little bit? He goes, he's honest. He said, yeah, man, it gives me a chip on my shoulder. And he goes, it feels good to kind of throw a middle finger up to those
yeah,
after that game won. So good for Parker. And, you know, we'll see what he has in store for this week.
All right, Aaron, there's been some questions that have come in for Jason. So Jason, why don't we go ahead and field some recruiting questions? If you guys got some, go ahead and get those into the Specs chat line. Throw that in there as well. South End Zone Queen is asking, hey, Twitter lining up with rumors that it's not Texas for his 5-star McKinley. What say you, Jason?
Yeah, South End Zone Queen, good question. What I say is you're right. They're rumors. And what I'll tell you is nobody knows. Okay. And I'll tell you the bits and pieces I do know in here in a second. But I have talked to so many people on so many different sides of this, including just this morning before I came on. I was talking to a source that in the state of Louisiana that I've known for a long time and I really trust. And I mean, he's guessing too. So are people at LSU. So are people in Austin. So are people in Oklahoma, Texas A&M, even Ohio State. Everybody's guessing to a large degree. Now, what I'll tell you is the last couple weeks, there's been, I would say, a low level of confidence on the Texas side in Austin. But even though that level of confidence is pretty low, there's some confidence there. And those other schools have even had lower confidence or maybe not much confidence at all. It's been Texas with a little bit more confidence, but still a pretty low level of confidence. Now, I started hearing yesterday afternoon, I got a call from a buddy of mine who covers Texas A&M, and there's a lot of rumblings about A&M maybe surging and being the team to beat. Well, those rumblings started in Baton Rouge. I can tell you it's people in Louisiana kind of got word to people in College Station, got word to me at Orangebloods. So the information as of today is all over the place. There's a little bit of confidence in Austin. There's a little bit of confidence in College Station. I was told Oklahoma felt like maybe they were falling back, but now people are talking about Oklahoma again. Bottom line is, End Zone Queen, I don't have an answer for you on this one. McKinley's done as good a job as anybody is keeping things under wraps and keeping a lid on information. He's not telling coaches. He's not telling any media. He's not telling other recruits. Frankly, I say, hey, tip of the cap to the dude, man. I think it makes it interesting. And sometimes it's okay to just say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I am still in my column. I don't remember. I changed my wording up because information's coming in so quickly and consistently. But I think I put in there, I'm still leaning Texas ever so slightly. But that A&M buzz that I heard yesterday has me second guessing myself. So I'm not putting in a future cast. I just don't have that much confidence either way in this one.
By the way, Jason, are you Are you as shocked as I am from last week when Oklahoma got David Stone, a 5-star, to commit to them? I'm like, how Venables recruits is I mean, I'm not, again, I'm just we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but Texas just got Colin Simmons, and then you're like, man, that's really great. And then they got a 5-star quarterback as well. Like, I know he's from Oklahoma, but it was still like, holy crap, they got a 5-star on defense at Oklahoma. Like, how the hell did that happen?
Well, David Stone he's at IMG Academy, but he's originally from Oklahoma. That's where that comes from. And he's played a lot of games, and I won't say games, but he's done things that like most recruits do to kind of drum up some suspense. But I remember talking to him. It had to be like a year and a half ago. It was at a rivals camp, and I think I saw him at an Under Armour camp also. And to me, it was pretty clear, even way back then, that Oklahoma was the team that he was enamored with. Texas had offered him, and Texas, he kind of, said the right things and about being nice to Texas and so on and so forth. But since then, he's done, shoots, like photo shoots where he's doing horns down and this, that, and the other. So I didn't follow his recruitment that closely, Anwar, once I knew Texas really wasn't legitimately under consideration. But he is originally from Oklahoma before he went to IMG. So I'm not terribly surprised that he wound up at Oklahoma. And the Venables thing, I'm with you, man. Listen, I remember when Texas beat OU last year. I remember talking to an Oklahoma guy, recruiting guy, and I was like, dude, is Venables done already? Like, I don't know how he comes back. Well, lo and behold, man, they turned it around to some degree on the field, and they had a pretty good recruiting class, man. And they're recruiting pretty well. Venables, kids seem to relate to him. He's a pretty likable guy. I know Texas fans don't want to hear it, but I think parents really respect him, and they value his values, if you will. Just that, he's a straight shooter, a pretty good person, I think. So not terribly surprised. Oklahoma's still a powerhouse program. I mean, yeah, they've taken a bit of a step back, but yeah, I mean, not surprised too much that they're recruiting well, and not really surprised that they got Stone to commit.
All right, go ahead, and Aaron, put up another question here. This one's from Chad Gibson. He goes, what's the latest on Brandon Baker? On3 posted a graphic last night listing Oregon at 53%, with Texas at 24% and OSU at 19%. What say you about Brandon Baker?
Well, I'm assuming that's probably based on, I forget, they have kind of a system there where it's analytics. So it takes into account, like, I don't even know what all it takes into account, but it's basically a computer generated formula, and it's not always the most accurate. If you want to pay attention to percentages, I would pay attention to actual human picks. Okay, the future cast, the crystal balls. On3 has their, I forget what they call it, but where actual people like me or their version of me are putting in picks. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. I'll tell you this: there's been a tremendous amount of confidence on the Texas side, Chad, for quite a while. That hasn't changed. I did talk to someone last week who thought it would probably still come down to Texas or Oregon. He has some connections at Oregon. I think his brother played there. Might even be a senior this year, but I don't think they'd be overlapping in terms of playing together at Oregon. But what I can tell you is I haven't heard differently. I still have Texas as a team to beat. The people that matter at Texas feel pretty good about their position. He is going to take a Nebraska visit in September and then probably decide after that. So we should have our answer. We could have our answer here in the next month or so. As it stands right now, I haven't heard anything to make me back off my stance from my recruiting board. I guess it was about a week or so ago. I had Texas as the leader, and I'm sticking to that stance for right now.
All right, one more question for you, Jason, and I'll let you run. Dominic McKinley, he's supposed to announce on this upcoming Friday. For those who don't follow recruiting, as we don't have not everyone's a recruit neat, right? So tell everyone a little bit about Dominic McKinley and who he is, what makes him so special, and kind of your thoughts on maybe where he's going to be leaning toward on Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday afternoon. He's going to announce, and they have a game Friday night. Now, interestingly, he plays Friday night against Melvin Hills, the Texas defensive line command. I talked to Melvin on Sunday, and I was like, "Hey, dude, Dom? Like, you got any indication where he's going?" He goes, "Not really. I mean, some of these Texas recruits feel kind of confident. They're like, I think we're in a pretty good spot, but nobody really knows." He's a big interior defensive linemen. Those are just the money positions that you have to be competitive at the highest level, especially in the SEC. Rivals has him right outside the top 100. He's moving up. I know Rivals has him ranked a little bit lower than some of the other services, but he's a legitimate top 100. Some will tell you top 50-ish type guy. I think maybe one or two services even has him as a 5-star. Big interior guy, interior defensive lineman, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Oklahoma, LSU, all involved. They all want him, right? Sometimes guys have these top 5s. You're like, okay, but only 2 of these teams are really going to take it. No, all 5 of them want Dominic McKinley. That tells you what kind of player he is. He's also got a younger brother, Anwar, in the 2026 class that Texas has offered. Actually, early on it was Texas and Oklahoma had offered. Then A&M, I think, offered. LSU recently offered. So all these guys are now offering his younger brother too. He's listed as a defensive tackle. He's a bit undersized right now, but he's, again, 2026. He's got a long way to go. But whoever gets Dominic McKinley, it's going to be a tremendous pickup. The only consensus there that I can really pick up on is nobody thinks he's going to stay in state and go to LSU. I mean, I've heard Texas buzz. I've heard A&M buzz. I mentioned, Oklahoma has had confidence kind of running hot and cold. I've even had one person in Louisiana tell me, and this was a few weeks ago, said, don't sleep on Ohio State. That's a school nobody's talking about. I talked to an Ohio State source this week, and they said, hey, Ohio State thinks it's going to be Texas. They don't think it's LSU. They think Texas is their biggest competition, but Ohio State doesn't think they're out of it either. So, again, man, nobody really seems to know with this one. It's going to make for an interesting announcement on Friday afternoon. The only thing I can tell you with some level of confidence is that I don't think he's going to go to LSU, but no matter where he picks, LSU's not going to give up on him either. He's an in-state prospect and tremendous player. So somebody will get a really good interior defensive lineman on Friday, but then they're going to have to fight to hang on to him.
Jason Suchomel from Orangebloods.com with the new hat. Jason, we absolutely appreciate it. I'll see you on Slack, and of course, see you here next week as well. So thanks for joining me, Jason. Thank you so much.
See you, Anwar.
All right. So that was Jason Suchomel from Orangebloods.com. When we come back, or I come back, because it's no we as far as that, it's just me and Aaron. So I guess when we come back, we'll go ahead and wrap this baby up. We'll go ahead and give us some final thoughts here. So don't go anywhere. We're almost done, almost at the finish line.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best defensive playmakers for the Texas program over the last decade. I'm talking about edge rusher Joseph Ossai. Ossai was one of the best players to come out of Tom Herman's 2018 recruiting class, although he was a low 4-star prospect who only ranked number 31 in the state by Rivals.com. Not a single recruiting service had him ranked as an elite prospect or inside of a national top 125 list. When we look at Ossai's recruitment, it was pretty cut and dry fairly early on that there were 3 schools that stood out above the rest. From the summer of 2017 all the way into October and November, Ossai kept a top 3 of Texas, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. Of the Longhorns, Ossai said that Todd Orlando and Oscar Giles used the following sales pitch on him. Quote, "They tell me I could be that Nashawn Hughes type of player. When I watch some of these close games that they've been in, I can place myself in that defense and see myself making the moves to finish those plays. I watch how I could impact the defense and picture helping some of those close games be wins." The battle eventually turned into a Texas versus Texas A&M battle, with Tom Herman's staff taking on a Jimbo Fisher staff that had just replaced Kevin Sumlin. In fact, the Aggies had been considered the heavy frontrunner for Ossai, but the dynamics of his recruitment changed the moment Sumlin was fired from Texas A&M. It was the opening that the Longhorns dearly needed and received. In fact, by the time January had rolled around, Orangebloods was reporting from an A&M source that the Longhorns had taken the lead for Ossai. On the last weekend before signing day, Ossai took a surprise official visit to Oregon, but it still turned out to be a battle between the Longhorns and Aggies all the way up until signing day, when he eventually chose the Longhorns.
Thank you, Catch. Thank you for everyone in that Specs chat line as well. And then thank you for Jason Suchomel for those really good, entertaining, and informative updates for everyone. All right, speaking of updates, you guys know after I get done, take a little break, just relax for a second. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because coming up at noon, it will be House Divided. Jeff Ketchum, Chad Hastings talking Texas on one side, Texas A&M on another side, clashing with each other. Probably not as much A&M talk. Probably not a lot of A&M talk with that one. Chad's gonna have to push back a little bit. Chad's gonna do something more than bring on Billy Lucci. He's gonna have to bring the heat. He's gonna have to push back if he wants some more A&M talk that's on there. But we have those guys on from 12 to 3, and then of course at 3:30, Alex Dunlap with the Football with Friends. A really fun, entertaining show. I called Alex the other day, and I was like, man, I love your show. I like seeing that different sides of you, the different parts of his personality. So from 3:30 to 5:30, you get that. And then the OB Outsiders, which was on Monday night, they will be back on Wednesday evening as well. So we'll have a jam-packed day tomorrow. Again, you hit subscribe, you will be able to get all the notifications when all these shows get started. I will be here all week long. I'm not going anywhere. I got some special things planned, though. Friday will be a fun prediction show. I don't want to spoil any of that, but we'll have some of that information coming to you as well. And then maybe starting as next week, there might be another show edition that's coming to OB Live. So I'm just giving you a little spoiler alert, working on that. Don't want to jinx anything, but that part is looking really good. So get ready for, hopefully, fingers crossed, another show announcement starting on next week. So listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone. Apparently, there is someone from, what's that PEC called? The electric company. I can't pronounce it, but he called and they need to turn off he needs to read my meter, means he needs to turn off my power. And I was like, hey, man, I told him to Brad, like, you can't do that. I'm doing the show right now. He's like, okay, well, can you I'm sitting out here in the truck. Can you let me know? I was like, all right, well, let me go ahead and wrap up this show so this man can do his job. He's got a lot of places to get to. So he needs to apparently shut up my power and get his day started. So I'll go ahead and let him do that. I will be back tomorrow morning. So you make sure you join me. We are family. We are in a relationship. Do not leave me now. I love you. I appreciate you. I honestly just appreciate you guys watching and supporting. Thank you for Aaron, who does all the good producing, great producing in the background. Appreciate all of that. I will be back tomorrow morning to have some great guests. Remember what I always say, live each day like it was your last, because one day it will be, and we shall talk soon. You guys take care.